just think of the slide. It's really simple, but it's actually hugely powerful when you think about real customers and they're trying to fix real problems. So what you see on the left here is the way things work today. And it says, okay, supplier or customer. It could say company A and company B, small company A and small company B, doesn't really matter. What currently happens is ultimately there's transactions being undertaken between these two different types of commercial institutions. But a few things are happening. You may be emailing an invoice to somebody and paying via a different network. You may be mailing a paper form, which still happens in large value transactions in trade finance today. But all of this is ultimately happening via multiple different systems. And ultimately what these customers are doing, or these companies are doing, is having to reconcile all of that back and try to actually figure out, well, I kind of trust the other counterparty, but I kind of don't. And I will spend the time and effort and money in actually making sure that the transactions are the way they said they were going to be. And in fact, so what does blockchain mean for the enterprise sector? It's actually what there is on the right-hand side of the diagram. Ultimately, it's going to come down to a shared network, shared data, shared business logic, and shared truth, ultimately, so that what you actually ultimately see is the same thing. Company A transacts with company B, and they see the same thing on both sides of the transaction. So what I'd encourage you to do is just hold on to that thought as we progress through the discussion. So if we're solving for this idea of how do you create shared truth between different companies, big and small, how do you design for that? How does a blockchain fit? If you're talking about a distributed ledger with immutability, what are the key characteristics of how that manifests itself? And so what we actually started was a consortium of institutions. It actually started off with 9 banks globally, grew very quickly to 42, and we're at 106 now. And these are institutions that back in the days of 2014 and 15, they didn't know what blockchain meant for the financial services sector. But what they wanted to do was to experiment to try and figure out what that answer was. And as we progressed through this journey, what it meant was that because we were working with these institutions, their requirements, their problems that they had, that they wanted fixed via blockchain became baked into our solution. So we have the requirement set from HSBC, from Citibank, etc., saying we want to solve this via blockchain. So this is a little bit of our journey. So we started off, as I mentioned, in 2014, grew quickly to 42 banks. And as these banks were experimenting and analyzing and trying to figure out what does blockchain, what value does it add to the financial services industry, the conclusion that they reached was that there wasn't a blockchain out there that was fit for purpose for enterprise-grade transactions. So the highest value maximum transactions, not a $5 transaction between 2 retail customers, but a $500 million transaction between 2 very large companies. And so because there wasn't anything out there that was fit for purpose, we decided to build Quarter collaboratively. So in January of 2016, we made the decision to start building Quarter. And again, it is the only blockchain that is built from the ground up for enterprise customers. So we're not trying to be all things to all people. We are very much focused on the enterprise sector. And as we progressed, Quarter was open sourced in late 2016. We're up to version 3.0 right now. And what we've also launched is an enterprise version of our product to provide additional secured support for large enterprise customers. So as I mentioned, there's a few elements around Quarter that make it quite unique. One, there are some basics, things like it is open source. It has been built with this industry-wide ecosystem in mind. It is designed specifically for business, but even though it began in financial services, it has now actually become usable in a whole range of other industries as well. So there's 2 elements that you need to think about in terms of how Quarter operates. One, it is an open source product. And this is a question that I get in various places that I speak with, the idea that, well, is Quarter a kind of a locked up, closed garden type of approach? In fact, it's not. It's actually completely open source. It's downloadable right now via quarter.net. And in fact, all of our engineers and so on operate on public Slack, so on and so forth. And there are contributing developers from all around the world who are not employees of R3. Importantly, though, what we've launched is that because we want to cater for large enterprise customers, these are the Reliances of the world, the Tatas of the world, the ICIs of the world. Because we want to cater for them, what we've also launched is Quarter Enterprise, and I'll speak to that in a moment. So people ask me, well, how is Quarter different from any other blockchain out there? I was having a discussion earlier about Hyperledger Fabric, which is a product built by IBM. So Quarter actually has three very unique features that make it unique that actually no other blockchain has. And I'll call them out in turn. So at the bottom left, there's privacy with provenance. So those of you who are more familiar with the Bitcoin and Ethereum worlds will know that, of course, it is a public blockchain. And ultimately, as you see other blockchains like Fabric and so on, which started their lives, or Ethereum, which started their lives in the public space, as they try to cater for enterprise customers, which demand privacy of transactions. If Company A and Company B are transacting, they don't want to reveal anything to Company C, unlike, say, a pseudonymous network like Bitcoin. So what Quarter actually has is a privacy model that is literally the opposite of Ethereum and Bitcoin. In fact, it's an opt-in model. So Company A and Company B can be transacting, and Companies C, D, and E see nothing, literally nothing. But if they decide that they want to include Company C and so on, they can opt in. Two, which is quite powerful, and I'll unpack this in a moment, despite it being a permission network, we still want the ability to enable companies of any type and description that have joined this permission network to be able to transact. It sounds like an easy thing, but in fact, many of our competitors are finding that it's actually a very hard thing to do. And because Quarter is built with these customers in mind, it actually makes it seamless. And the third element, where it says integrate with legacy infrastructure, I think this is one of the elements which has probably been neglected a little bit in the blockchain space. And if you speak to our senior technology team, folks like Richard Kendall Brown, Mike Hearn, who comes from the Bitcoin world and so on, for them, what they're trying to build is something that is usable by technologists in the enterprise sector. So they made a deliberate decision to actually build Quarter in the Java virtual machine. And the reason they did that was they didn't want to force 6 million Java developers to have to learn Solidity, for example. So you just make it immediately accessible. And to take it a little further, and just for those of you who have a little more familiarity with how, say, corporate IT works, what we also want to cater for is, if you have a blockchain out there, how do you actually integrate it with an actual system? Like, it's fine to say that the blockchain sits out there in the ether, but at the end of the day, if you want a large company to use it, ultimately they want to integrate it some way back into their own systems. So one of the things that we have in our kind of Quarter enterprise version, which is a commercial deployment, is this idea of an application firewall. So you can actually deploy your blockchain or Quarter behind their own corporate firewall and still be able to interact outside their institution. This idea of high availability and disaster recovery. So there is no tolerance for a 1% drop in performance. This idea of hot, cold nodes that actually support the systems that we deploy in various customer environments is actually very critical as well. There's a number of other features as well, which I won't take you through, but ultimately, if you're thinking about it, what we're really focusing on as well is how you deploy blockchains with real customers. This element is quite key, and I think those of you who come from the public blockchain space, those of you who perhaps come from more the enterprise space, but are perhaps less familiar with Quarter, this is one you want to kind of consider. And just to kind of summarize a few of the points I made earlier. Ultimately, when you think about what many of the blockchains that are out there trying to do, ultimately they're fit for purpose for very specific use cases. Typically speaking, Bitcoin is good at a couple of things. Ethereum is typically good at a couple of things. And similarly, as we progress through the chain, for us, as I mentioned earlier, Quarter is there to build for enterprise customers. It's not trying to be a public blockchain. But if you think about the spectrum and how we look at it, if you take something like Bitcoin and Ethereum, that is the right vision for a global interoperable network. Anyone can spin up a node and start transacting. That is exactly what you want to do. But at the same time, it's not necessarily what you want to do for enterprise customers. Enterprise customers don't want their transactions out in the open. They want support in actually deploying it in their corporate environments. So those are some key differences there. And then if you think about how Fabric and Quorum operate, the challenge that they face is they started in this public blockchain world. And then they're trying to become blockchains for enterprise customers. But what that means is that you start compromising on your own architectures. Those of you who are a little more technically inclined may be aware of, say, the channels architecture in Fabric, which actually kind of reduces the actual benefits of what a blockchain actually enables. So for us, if you think about it, and happy to take questions afterwards as well, ultimately for us, again, we're not trying to be all things to all people. But for us, we operate a global interoperable network that is permissioned, but it is built with enterprise customers with support in mind. So how do we go to market? For us, Quarter is enabled entirely via partners, and I was speaking with some of the folks who have stands here earlier today as well. So we have well over 200 partners today, and these are the large. You'll see plenty of logos, but these are the large Microsofts and Intels and so on of the world. It is the large systems integrators of the world, but it is also the small startups. And so for us, the way we go to market is we build the platform, and all of the applications and services that are ultimately provided to end customers are actually provided by our partners. And so those of you who are looking at the enterprise space, looking at enterprise customers, I'd encourage you to both look at Quarter as a technology, but also look at our actual engagement model, and you'll find it's actually quite beneficial in order to take your own products and services to market. What I wanted to do as well was just to give you an idea of where we're at in the journey, where we're at in the life cycle. So in some gatherings, perhaps not this one, but quite often I hear, well, is blockchain really ready for prime time? Is it ready for production? And what I wanted to outline here is ultimately for us, Quarter is in production, and it is cross-industry. It's not just about financial services. So I wanted to take you through 4 examples that are relevant. So we actually have now 10 production deployments where Quarter has actually been deployed with a real company out in Europe, Asia, North America, and so on, where real transactions are taking place. About 4 of these are public, but I wanted to take you through a few. So Finastra is actually the largest syndicated lending provider in Europe. For those of you who don't know, syndicated lending is essentially taking a very large loan from a corporate customer, like a Reliance, which might be for $1 billion, and you divide it between 5 banks at 200 million each. But in fact, that's actually a broken process right now. It's highly manual, involving phone calls and paper and so on. And so what Finastra has done is actually built a product on our platform that actually enables customers to transact in real time and actually figure out where the gaps are, who wants to pay what price for what particular position. And it's all being done on Quarter. So we actually have live 200, 300 million euro transactions being taken on our platform. A second example is Siam Cement Group in Thailand. And in fact, what they've built now is using Quarter for their procurement process. So they're very much a non-financial services company at all. They're in the cement business and a whole range of adjacent industries. But what they've done is actually enabled all of their dealers to now start transacting via our platform. And they've built a procurement application on top, and they've processed over 24,000 POs over the last 2 months alone. So again, real transactions that are being deployed with real customers. The third example, just to take it out from the financial services space a little bit, is actually a startup called Guild One out of Canada. And the beauty of open source, of course, is startups are able to see opportunities where we cannot. And so, in fact, what they've launched is actually the world's first royalty smart contract. So, in fact, involving all of the elements of the value chain in an oil transaction, right from the driller of the oil in Canada, the company that owns the pipelines, the company that actually does the payments, and even the native Indian reservations who's entitled to a payout from that particular transaction as well. So that's, again, another example of Quarter beyond financial services. And the fourth one I just wanted to bring back closer to home, in fact, was about 2 months ago, we actually went live with our first application in India. It's with Federal Bank out of Kerala, who actually built with one of our partners called DigiLedge, which is a small 6-person startup out of Bangalore, actually utilizing our platform for remittances between Kerala and the Middle East. So hopefully that gives you a flavor of the types of use cases and also how it's being utilized. Again, it's very real and in production. I'm not sure what's happened here, but I'll just, anyway, the slides are, I'll try and describe them to you without the words. Essentially, I wanted to give you an idea of, what does the future look like? People often ask, okay, so people looking at kind of efficiency plays and interesting transactions and so on, but what does the future look like in, say, the next 3 to 5 years, at least in the enterprise space? And so what I wanted to describe to you was 2 different streams of work we're undertaking, and it's really highly relevant for this audience, and where it can go in the next 3 to 5 years. So one side of the equation, which is probably slightly different to the folks that are speaking about ICOs and so on, is what we call digital cash. But this is digital cash in a very different sense. It's central bank-backed digital currency. So if you think about an ICO or a cryptocurrency that's out there. Ultimately, there are tokens that are not necessarily regulated. Obviously, it's emerging in certain markets, but they're not necessarily backed by a central bank. And so what we've been doing is actually working with partners like the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the Bank of Thailand, the Bank of Canada, and so on, which are all central banks, reserve banks, and actually exploring how we can actually deploy digital cash that is backed by the central bank. So this is central bank issued and regulated. So a lot of that work is being undertaken. And as you can imagine, in fact, what we've learned is it's less of a technical issue, as more of it is a change in laws, regulation, and so on. But we're working through that. The other side of the equation, just before I get to the benefits, is the other side of the equation is digitization of financial assets. So if you take a simple example like a corporate bond, for example, and if you can actually create a token around that and actually enable that transaction between multiple parties, it starts to become very powerful. And so we've got a whole range of projects underway that are looking at tokenization of different types of financial assets. But where does that finally get you? So you have one side of the equation, which is digital cash backed by central banks, and the other side is a digitized financial asset. What are the benefits that could accrue? So I want to give you an example. So if you think about one bank sitting in Singapore and another bank sitting in Hong Kong. A Hong Kong bank has a bond they want to sell, and the Singapore bank wants to purchase that bond for 100 million US dollars. So in the future, and again, not the not too distant future, using our platform, what you can do is the following. If you have the digitized financial asset, the digitized bond, and the digitized version of the cash, you can actually undertake that transaction atomically. So right now, it can take anywhere between 5 to 7 business days for that transaction to settle. So the bank in Hong Kong will send the bond or ownership and title to the bond. And then the cash will take anywhere from 5 to 7 days to arrive, and that will be settled. The challenge there isn't that it takes 5 days or it takes 7 days. It's the uncertainty. And so what a bank will do is they will hold for a 100 million US dollar transaction, will hold up to 20 million themselves in escrow just in case the transaction doesn't go through. So what happens when you do this transaction atomically? Suddenly you no longer have to hold 20 million because the transaction is undertaken simultaneously. So now as banks start to think through this, suddenly the value equation changes dramatically. Suddenly capital that is currently locked up and inefficient can be deployed for far better use cases. But that's only part of the story. One of the most exciting parts for us is working with regulators. And in fact, we've had a hugely positive response, particularly from MAS and HKMA in Hong Kong, because for the first time ever, they now can operate a node on this network and actually start to monitor the transactions that are being undertaken cross-border between financial institutions in real time. And the benefit for them is actually to be able to, for the first time ever, model what does systemic risk look like. The question that typically comes up is, well, if regulators had a view on bank positions back in 2007-8, could they have prevented the financial crisis? That might be too much of a stretch, but ultimately it has a significant benefit in reducing the risk between both banks and economies. So I'd summarize it in 2 ways. One is there is a key financial benefit for the institutions that are actually transacting, and actually they will actually receive a full monetary benefit. But then importantly, from a wider regulatory perspective, there is a significant benefit as well. So slide I was trying to describe. What this is supposed to describe is where we see things going in the future. So the way things work, and probably the timelines are slightly different to the Bitcoin and Ethereum worlds, but if you think about for when corporations or banks and others discovered blockchain for the first time, it was kind of like 2014, 15. 2016 was very much the year of the POC, the proof of concept. No one was really going to production. 2017 was the year of pilots. People wanted to go further. And now in 2018, we finally have production deployments. So for us, we have 10 right now. We have 120 in the pipeline. Those are going to get deployed in the next 2 to 3 years in varying ways. But I think for us, we actually see an avalanche of use cases being deployed in reality with real customers in 2019. And the final component I wanted to mention, just as we move into 2019, I was speaking with a few folks earlier as well, is for us, we want to be active participants with our partners and help seek the market ourselves. And given this is obviously an investor conference, for us, if you think about who we are and what we do, I'd summarize it as this. R3, of course, is us, the company. Quarter is our platform, our core product, which different types of partners are building on, whether they're building applications, providing services, and so on. And these are analogous, obviously, to Google, Android, and so on. But what we're taking is perhaps more of a traditional VC approach to actually engaging with startups in our ecosystem. Well, what we're launching next year, and what that's supposed to say is ADROC, ADROC, which is a seed fund we'll be launching early next year. And part of the reason for me being out here this week is, of course, meet potential startups and actually figure out where we can start working more closely with potential partners, particularly those that are the early stages of their venture journey. So with that, I just wanted to summarize by saying, for those of you who are potential partners with us, who want to build applications or provide services to enterprise customers in the blockchain space, please do sign up and become a Quarter partner via that link on the top right there. And those of you who want to chat or want to speak more about the ADROC fund, please get in touch via email. I'll also be here for a few hours this afternoon as well. Thank you. Do we have time for questions or any questions? Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So in fact, so the question was we mentioned that we've got a partnership with Federal Bank in Kerala. The question was, can we speak a little more about that partnership? In fact, as I mentioned, we go to market entirely by partners. And the key partner there, in fact, is DigiVerge, which is a 6-person startup I met in Singapore last year, and they're based in Bangalore. And in fact, there was a relationship they had. But interestingly enough, they started off building on one of our competitors' platforms, the Fabric, run by IBM. They saw the light in a way in terms of how Quarter is usable for enterprise customers. And what we're doing is working with DigiVerge to deploy a remittance application for Federal Bank. So Federal Bank works, so this is public information. Federal Bank works obviously with a number of money exchanges in the Middle East. So what we've built is an application that actually enables transactions to be undertaken in real time between Federal Bank and money exchanges in the Middle East on the wholesale end. And then ultimately they get access to cash in a quicker way than they previously would. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanam. Now I would like to call on stage Mr. Varun Sethi, founder, blockchain lawyer, and he'll be talking about regulatory framework for blockchain in India.
While the government is doing nothing, my voice is not bad enough to hear. Am I audible? Whoa. How many of you have had your lunch? Anyone who's not had their lunch? Right? You don't like eating hospitality. Okay. How many of you who had their lunch but did not have full cream? Everyone had full cream. Wow. Did not have full cream. Why is the lawyer talking about full cream?
काम करो वहां पे जाओ आशीष भाई को बोल दो कि प्रयास का कहा था कि आपको कनेक्ट करते हैं.
If you have not had your full cream, it means that you missed out the most sweet part of the lunch. So let's just start off this way. Let's get the energy back first of all. Let's wish ourselves good morning once again at 3 p.m. Let's say this. Good morning. I find some lack of energy there. Hello ma'am, good morning. Let's do it once again. Good morning. Wow, this was better. Good, nice. So I think you've already had lots and lots of session. I don't know, for some reason they always keep it just after the lunch break. So generally people are just lagging their chairs. But I'll try to make it very short and sweet. And we will not wait for the questions for the very last slide. In case you've got questions, just raise your hand right in the middle of the presentation, and I'll try to answer those questions. Right. We go right into this thing. So I talk about four things. I talk about blockchains, four things. Regulations in India, or the lack of it. Second, I talk about some myths. Then I talk about some precautions which are to be taken. And finally, some solutions. Right. So move on to it. Whoa. Very simple, just 7-8 slides. Try to answer some questions to you. We start off with this thing. Genesis regulations. Does any one of you know about Genesis? What does Genesis mean in blockchain technology? What is Genesis? What is Genesis? We know about Genesis block. I put up the word from there. What is Genesis block? I think the technology guys are still having their food. That is right. Right. So Genesis was the very first block that was mined. The very first block that was mined. So what I'm trying to say here is that Genesis regulation primarily means that in India, the regulations are still in a very nascent stage. So it'll take some more time to actually build on those regulations. I've made some personal efforts with the Reserve Bank of India, with the Ministry of Finance, with the central government, with the Security and Exchange Board of India, and I'll try to share what have been my correspondence with those people and how they have responded. Right. Next, we talk about forking myths. What does forking mean in blockchain? Anyone? What does forking mean? You got more media guys today. Media guys, I think you must be doing your research and found some media guys here. What does forking mean? There's main chain, then you fork, you get onto a side chain, you start something new. Right. Forking in very simple terms means just splitting the main chain. So what we are trying to do here is that I'll talk about this thing. We will fork the myth and divide the myth into myth and reality. Then we move on to this thing. What are main chain precautions? What is the main chain? What happened to all the tech guys? What is the main chain? Don't tell me that you have heard 4 or 5 presentations on the main chain in blockchain. Okay, so the main chain is the core chain on which all the blockchain transactions are actually put in an immutable ledger, block after block. That becomes the main chain. So we'll talk about some precautions that you got to take and the main chain precautions because it's right in the middle of it. You still got to take those precautions if you want to be part of this blockchain technology. And finally, I have some solutions. When I talk about solutions, I've used the word testnet. What does a testnet mean in blockchain? Anyone? Testnet in blockchain? Okay, so I'll give you a slide hint on this thing. Whenever these blockchain developers develop something, what they do is that they put it on the testnet first, which means that they are just testing the software, testing what they're building, and then once the testnet is completed, they actually move it to the mainnet. Right. So what I'm proposing is that there are some solutions, some legal solutions that we're talking about, and those legal solutions are still in a testnet phase. So I may be suggesting some solutions, and those solutions are still in testnet phase. We'll quickly move on to this thing. Whoa. Well, someone seems to be very angry. Blockchain startups today are suffering from a very crippling, archaic, and antiquated state regulatory system, and it's driving innovation abroad. Do you agree or do you don't? Do you agree? Well, some people agree, indeed. It is actually a real problem that India was facing during the dot-com era. We saw about 80% of the Indian tech people actually got shifted to Silicon Valley. The same thing, the same challenges we are facing today. I meet lots of IIT graduates. I meet lots of young people. Those people feel that their future belongs not in India, but in places like, say, Malta, places like Zug in Switzerland, Why? Because the regulatory framework there is easier for them to actually try out their own solutions. So this code actually says that about 80% of the Indian young tech entrepreneur talent in blockchain might actually get shifted to other countries. So something needs to be done. Whoa. In this slide, I'll talk about what are the initiatives that I have taken personally, what are the initiatives that my team has taken, and what are the solutions that we've got from the government. Okay, so for the very first time, Government of India in Budget 2018, in the month of February 2018, talked about blockchain. For the very first time, the finance minister in the annual budget speech in 2018 mentioned about blockchain, that the government is looking at this technology. However, the only quote that came from the government was that Bitcoin is not legal currency. Okay, let me put up this question now. If Bitcoin is not legal currency, is Bitcoin illegal? How many of you say Bitcoin is illegal? Okay, let me put it this way. How many of you say that Bitcoin is legal? Okay, I think there's two people saying Bitcoin is legal. Sir, is Bitcoin legal or illegal? Okay. Is Bitcoin legal or illegal? It's legal but not currency. What does that mean? Does it make it illegal or does it make it legal? And that's a diplomatic answer. Anyone there? Is it legal? Is it illegal? Is Bitcoin legal or is it illegal? The tech guys will always say legal. So as you rightly pointed out, Bitcoin is not a legal tender, which means it cannot be transacted as a medium of exchange. But shares, stocks, and bonds are also not legal tender, but they are still legal. So what I'm trying to say here is that Bitcoin is surely legal in India. However, there are lack of regulations on how it is to be used. So these are some efforts that we made. Everyone knows what happened with the Reserve Bank of India in April 2018. Can anyone of you help me with what happened on 6th of April 2018 in India? Reserve Bank of India? Anyone? That's a good answer. Yes. So there was a ring fencing notification that came, and Reserve Bank of India issued a notification stating that they will not allow banks to convert cryptocurrencies into fiat currency, that is your rupee, and rupee investments into cryptos. So what I did was that on that very night, we sat, we researched, we found out, and we filed a right to information application with the Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India, after 1 month's time, came up with a reply. And they stated that, yes, this is not a legal tender. However, this step of stopping the banks from accessing or allowing you to access the fiat currency was not backed by any research. They wrote this thing. Second, they stated that this decision was not based on any internal committee that was formed. So it was done without the committee. Third, they stated that before getting in this restriction in place, they did not talk to any central bank of the world. So they did it themselves. And fourth, which is rather intriguing, they mentioned that cryptocurrencies are outside the purview of FEMA laws in India, which means that if this is illegal in India or semi-legal or legal in India, if an Indian investor invests in cryptocurrencies abroad, FEMA laws are not applicable. And this is slightly questionable or debatable, because you can always invest in a country abroad, then liquidate your cryptos there and bring it back to India by way of FDI. Well, this opened a huge debate. So what we did was that we filed another RTI with this time SEBI. So what SEBI did? SEBI came up with some different answers. SEBI stated that we have seen the reply of Reserve Bank of India. However, we have taken one step ahead. We sent 3 people abroad to understand blockchain and Bitcoin and the technology behind it. And those people have actually obtained some technical information. So I was rather interested, what is that technical information that they wanted, that they have obtained from those countries abroad? So I've written another letter to SEBI, And those people have actually come back to India. They have submitted their report. But for some reason, SEBI is not allowing us to access that report. So we are filing another appeal with SEBI to come up with this answer. What is the kind of report that those people who have understood this technology from experts abroad have submitted to SEBI in India? So the point here is that the government is surely doing something. It's not that they are sitting hand in hand not doing anything. They're surely doing something. There's another interesting thing that came up that I wrote it here. It's slightly informal. There is a circulation that has been sent to all the income tax officers, which is an internal circulation. It is not public. I wrote an RTS stating that whether this thing can be made public, they know that this is only for the internal understanding of the income tax officers. So if you are dealing in cryptos, make sure your income tax officer is also getting smarter by the day, and he is also getting more and more aware of what Bitcoin and what taxation should be. So make sure that you've got those details in place. And then, of course, the Supreme Court case law that is going on. Anyone aware of what case law is going on? What is the discussion that is going on there? Anyone's aware? So, on the basis of one of my RTIs with the Reserve Bank of India, these exchanges use that data and they file a petition with the Supreme Court stating that on what basis have you actually cut off the ties of the banks to access fiat currency or cryptocurrencies. So there's a case law that is going on in Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has actually asked Reserve Bank of India to come up with an affidavit explaining their stance. The next due date is the month of January 2018. While we are actually entangled in all these things in India, we are trying to push ourselves through the regulations. World over, what we are seeing is that US SEC is coming up with some case laws. Even though they're slightly negative, they have actually issued a penalty on companies like Paragon and Airtoken. We'll talk about that slightly later. Companies like Malta have actually come up with a big regulation. They've issued 3 licenses wherein you can obtain a license, float a company there, and then you can actually become a blockchain company registered with the government. And of course, we find China, after Binance got shifted from there to Malta. And there's some communication that is going on with World Economic Forum. Now, this is rather interesting. For the very first time, World Economic Forum and FAFT, which is Financial Action Task Force, so they came up with this explanation of virtual assets. For the very first time, there was documented history what virtual assets means. And they also talked about virtual asset exchanges. So all exchanges would then be governed by those guidelines. So there's surely something going on at the world level. The good part is that India generally derives its laws from what is written in World Economic Forum reports. If you're expecting that India will come up with something from the World Economic Forum reports. Whoa, we are talking about some myths here. Okay, let's talk about this. Non-fiat transactions are tax exempt. Is it a myth? Is it a reality? Non-fiat transactions are tax exempt. It's false. That is, you don't have to pay taxes. So I earn $1 million worth of cryptos. I don't have to pay taxes. Is it right? Not right? Yes. That's a very nice thing to say. You should declare, however, since the tax rate is not defined, you do not need to pay taxes, but you need to declare. That's a very good thought. So in India, I would say the answer is yes or no. I would still say keep a document trail. As you rightly pointed out, keep the documentation in place. Get your transactions explained. So say, for example, one day you find a Ledger Nano in your pocket with $10 million worth of Bitcoins, and you do not have explanation for it. Well, you can be screwed. So in that sense, make sure that you have explainable cryptocurrencies in your wallet. Second, ICOs are easy access to public money. Is it a myth? Is it a reality? ICOs are easy access to public money. It's false. Well, ICO is very easy to actually execute in 2017. Now the market is going down, so I think you can say that thing. That doing an ICO today is slightly difficult. However, this is the thing that I want to say here. IPOs, because the regulatory procedures in place, are slightly difficult to execute. However, ICOs give you easy access to public money. However, with public money comes public responsibility. So you cannot, or you should not access public money without having the will to build a tangible business. Do not take public money and just run away with it. Do not, sitting here in India, do not float a company in Isle of Man, the country that perhaps many of you may not even know. So do not float companies there, do an ICO there, and then have no will to even construct or think of building a tangible business. Doing an ICO in countries which allow doing an ICO is perfectly fine as you have a will to do a tangible business also. Move on to the next thing. Possession of cryptos is illegal in India. False? Okay. I feel that this statement is quite incomplete. It should be possession of unclaimed cryptos is illegal in India. So as long as you have explained cryptos in your pocket, that is how you get it. Whether it was an airdrop, whether you purchased it, whether you got it as some service. So only that portion is legal. Other than that, well, if you're not able to explain how you got money in your ledger wallet, well, that should be illegal. Cross-border crypto transactions are valid. It's myth, it's reality. Cross-border crypto transactions are valid. It's true, false. Let me take that reference of what SEBI wrote and what RBI wrote to me. They state that since FEMA laws are not applicable to cryptos in India, this can still be treated as valid. However, I still feel that this is hugely debatable. Well, this is what we move on to. We talk about precautions. What are the precautions that we got to take? One, I see lots of documents, people willing to raise funds, people talking Telegram groups, calling themselves Crypto Guruji, calling themselves Blockchain Baba. These are the kind of terms that they use. Why are they using these terms? They use these terms to stay anonymous. See, it's not bad to stay anonymous. But I've seen legal documents, people using Blockchain Baba. So those things should not be done. Take a precaution. Make sure that in case you are entering into a legal contract, do not use these kind of jargons. Come up with your correct name. Have your documentation in place. Second, explainable. This is as good as you keeping a ledger wallet in your pocket, keeping a treasure wallet in your pocket, and not having an explanation as to how many bitcoins or Ethereum or any other coin is there, and you not being able to explain how did you receive this thing. So explainable of each and every transaction. The government has a right to actually ask all these things from you. And you should absolutely be clear at any given point in time to be able to explain how did you receive it and how did you transfer and what is the current balance. Third, be open to government scrutiny. Lots of people think that, oh, it's my privacy right, the government cannot ask this thing. Well, privacy right is one thing. The government, as per the constitution, has absolute right to ask for all the transactions in your bank account and also your crypto wallet account. If you are in a possession of a crypto wallet, you cannot say that I cannot explain this transaction. It does not happen that way. Even though there may not be regulations in place, the government still has the constitution that ask the details of the transactions. Third, well, people talk about rights, but they do not talk about duties. So the moment you say about privacy rights, well, you also got duties to explain to the government. So, some solutions. What happens here? Very simple. If you're here in India, you want to do an ICO. What do? You come up to a person like me, or you go to some lawyer in Malta, you float one company there. Then what happens? You've never been to Malta. Some people don't even have a passport. Without a passport, leave alone a visa, they do not even know where Malta is on this map. And they are running a company in Malta. One person came to me and told I floated a company in a country called Liechtenstein. Wow, where is that? Where is Liechtenstein? You live in Italy, so obviously you would know. Another person came up to me and said that I've done an ICO worth 35 million in a country called Isle of Man. Where is Isle of Man? He could not even locate where Malta was. He could not even locate, leave alone Malta, he could not even locate where Hong Kong was. So the point is that if you take access to public money and you do not even know where your registered office is, leave alone your intention to build a tangible business. Hence, with public money comes public responsibility. And that responsibility is three. Explain what you're doing to the investors and ensure that the end use of money is equal to the reason why you have raised funds, and build a tangible business. See, I've been a startup consultant prior to this. On an average, about 80% of all the startup companies fall in 3 years' time. But no one calls them a scam because there is an intention to build the business. Whether the actual business gets built or not is not a prerogative here. In ICOs also, if you access public money, there should be a clear intention to build the business. Whether you are successful in building a successful business or not, that is not the question. But you cannot float companies in Isle of Man, Malta, in those countries, and don't even know where your registered office is. He called up another friend of his in Malta to explain and ask whether Malta is in Africa or in Europe. So if these things happen and the government asks you, where is the registered office, and you do not know whether it is in Africa or Europe, well, the government is all the right to actually call it a scam. And, well, last year alone, more than $1 billion were invested in blockchain projects. And this news came only last week. Out of 43 top projects, not even one had tangible business delivery. See, the point is that we do understand getting fast money is not a problem in cryptos. However, again, it boils down to the very traditional things. You build a business, avoid the IPO route, which is longer, access money, public money through ICO, which is not wrong. In some countries, it's legit valid. In India, it's like no, yes, no, no. However, at the end of it, you still got to build tangible businesses. So, any tech developers here, I see some tech developers here, while it's your responsibility to improve on these numbers, that's not my game. Right. So, this is what the government stance is. This is the last slide here. This is what the government stance is. Government wants to talk about blockchain, but does not want to talk about cryptos. So, my last question. Can blockchains run without cryptos? Do you think that blockchains can run without cryptos? Yes.
No, the owner was put behind the mask.
So I'll explain that case. I have researched in that case of Unocoin with Satvik getting pinned. So the case was that he actually installed an ATM which was accessible only to Unocoin people. Right. The branding was done as an ATM. Technically, it should have been called a kiosk. RBI stated that since these are white label ATMs, you need permission. Did you take the permission? The answer was no. 7 days, we have the money. So, point is that we come to this question again. Are cryptos and blockchain the necessary evil? Because the government is very enthusiastic on blockchain technology. The government is very skeptical about cryptos. Final answer. Anyone? It's the fuel to run your car. So the government wants the car, wants to run it, but does not want to put the fuel in. Right. Well, it all boils down to this question. Why would anyone run a blockchain project if he was not rewarded? Why would miners mine coins if they were not rewarded? So, cryptos are surely the fuel, as he rightly pointed out, to the car that you are running. So, say for example, in a centralized system, the central authority has the power to take decisions. Similarly, in decentralized systems, you actually need some motivation to go forward, to take decisions, to mine more coins, to create value for the entire network. That is why you want cryptos. So this is my small initiative. We are writing a small white paper to the government of India, Ministry of Finance. I've been in conversation with the secretary to submit this paper in the month of December only. Let's see what their reaction is to the crypto being necessary part of the evil that blockchains are. Let's see what the government decides on that thing. So I keep it open-ended. Thank you so much. This is my website. I'm active on Twitter. Thank you so much. In case there are any questions, let me know. I think we're done. Uh, I'll just repeat that question. The question is, can we float a simple company on blockchain and not on Bitcoins, right? So I would say yes, you can surely go forward. Ministry of Corporate Affairs allows you to float a company with the name and the main object as blockchain. However, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs would not allow you to open a company with the name as Bitcoins. Still, before 2017, there are 6 companies which are registered in Ministry of Corporate Affairs. You can see those details at MCA. However, currently they are not allowing any more companies with the name as Bitcoins or Ethereums. Without crypto, say for example, if I want to float a company, Blockchain Lawyer Services Private Limited, I can surely do that thing. That is still valid.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You've been a nice audience. Thank you.
Hello. Unfortunately, Mr. Coffee couldn't make it to India at the moment, but he's available on a Skype call with us right now, and I'm going to put him live on the stage right now.
लाइव दिखाना है
You can do the full screen with us, sir.
Outside from our side, waiting for Simon to join.
शुरू से ये कर रहा है क्या रिकॉर्ड मोबाइल में
Yeah, I can see.
इसमें आंध्रा
Simon's got on call right now.
वो है रिकॉर्डिंग आपके पास
Okay, let's go.
YouTube पे live होगा. Another session.
यूट्यूब पे लाइव होगा
वो सारे
इसमें नहीं
Sorry,
है
but
ये
you
डायरेक्ट
come
यूट्यूब पे
back.
लाइव कर रहे हैं
हाँ ध्यान में कर
So just to keep it short, you guys must have observed, right? The world is shrinking, and it's shrinking so much that everything is becoming TLA, three-letter acronym. If you have to be successful, you find a term which comes and fits into the three letters: ERP, SAP, DSC. Oh, that was a quite a good start. What do we call it? But everything is fine. You're fine, right? You okay? Good. Okay. Great. So what I'll do is, the 3 is the most critical number of it. So I'll keep it just 3 pointers. My entire presentation has 3 points to take away. So what are the top 3? The world is moving more towards nationalism than globalism. What I mean is, quite a lot of leaders are now trying to close the borders. And if you see, they are trying to keep as much as business from home, to collect the tax. They are creating borders, and they are challenging whatever is challenging their sovereignty. They are trying to kill that thing. Even World Economic Forum stated that the globalization of 90s, what started as liberalization and globalization, is no more going to work. So there has to be a new form of the globalization which will prevail. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is distributed over centralized. We have been trained to trust in a centralized system, but today, if you look at, we are moving towards decentralized, towards distributed, and this distributed system, just to name a few, right? You have seen this. I think we all on WhatsApp, enough forwards on this. How Amazon destroyed this model Airbnb to hotels and all. The third, the most important point is, we have started trusting strangers more than the centralized system, right? Now, this is the most important point for us to understand, so I'll just quickly throw more lights. Today, we don't trust in banks, we don't trust in authorities, we have less trust in religious centers also. But this is a game which is changing pretty fast, right? So, how many of you have heard about BlaBlaCar? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, close to 10 plus. One of the most used taxi or cab sharing services, 50 million users, 40% increase year on year. How many have installed it on your mobile? Okay, excellent. There's 1, 2. Okay, great. What about Airbnb? How many have used Airbnb? You get a house which is of a strangers, you book it, you go and stay there, and trust level has increased, right? How this is achieved, we will come to that, but the peer-to-peer economy, and we are expecting close to 200 million bookings on Airbnb in 2020, right? How many of you have Tinder on your mobile? 1. Okay, all the partial and I'll count. Okay. There are 50 million users, out of which 10 million active users, 3.8 paid subscriber, and 20 billion matches made so far. In last decade, what happened with these 3 changes is, we started believing in a mechanism of disintermediation. Disintermediation is where from product to service, you are removing all the layers and bringing cab to you closure, house to you closure, or all those things. So, in the next decade, what will happen? So this is what happened so far, right? What we have seen is centralization plus disintermediation. We started calling it disruption. The next decade is about distributed systems. Again, 3 points about this, which I'll quickly cover. The reason for this particular change is blockchain. It's a platform which brings multiple parties together and everyone trusts into the system, right? The 3 things about blockchain are very important and very interesting for us to understand, because we all come from a system where we have been living with polytheism for so many years. We believe in so many gods, and so does blockchain. Everyone, all nodes are powerful enough to have all the data. So, how many of you have seen this Hindu genealogy record. When you go to Haridwar to leave someone, your near and dear one, there is a piece of record where someone has signed earlier, which is your family's key, and then you sign it. So every time record key gets added, that's a distributed ledger in a way, right? And there is a private key on it, which is your family key, someone who came with whom, and then it keeps adding, right? The second important part of the blockchain is private key. How many of you know Hawala? Yeah? How does Hawala happen? You know some key, you go and give it to someone else, he trusts you because of the key, and you get the payment. I don't support it, but that has been happening. Trust. How many of you know Hundi? Right? Hundi has been there as a parallel economy for so many. In Gujarat, you go, 40, 50%. So again, I don't support it, but it's happening. The trust is there in the system. What has happened is Satoshi Nakamoto got all the concepts together in 2008, published the paper, and made the blockchain and the Bitcoin as the first thing. There are many other consensus mechanism is there. Quite a lot of other concepts which he used. So what is consensus? I think in India we have been using Panchanama for ages. What is Panchanama? To bring a consensus of 5 people on a particular thing that this issue happened, right? So that was the trust. So what happened past is you had the stalwarts or the mammoth of the industries, and you have Facebook, Twitter, Dropbox, and the next age which is coming is future, which is more distributed. Now the big change is Airbnb or Uber. They disrupted the previous kind of economy in 5 to 10 years. But what will happen with them is they will get disrupted much more faster, right? So if you look at Uber model or the Lyft or the Didi model, they have a search pricing based model. It's a complete ecosystem where you remove the middleman. What if I give you another system which is like this, but you have power as an end user? Today, what will happen in the new model is you will open an app, press the app, the drivers will be able to see you, your right, and then you will be able, they will be able to bid for your right. You have the trust in the system, smart contract is already there. The moment you bid for it, the rider selects the driver based on the price, reputation, time to pick up, and smart contract which is in the backend. The moment you start the ride, the escrow gets logged in. The moment escrow is logged, the moment you finish the ride, the smart contract conditions are fulfilled and it gets executed. What will happen with this? The power of Uber model will come into your hand, right? And you all will start trusting a lot more on the platform than a centralized authority, which is one of the ride incomes. So that's one, right? Let's look at two. So you can get those models along. Airbnb, today's central authority, which is Airbnb, we all trust in it. P2P, they have executed fine, but again, they have reached up to a centralized model. But if you have to look at a distributed model of it, where you have an integrated KYC, low transaction cost, smart contract for everything, including the insurance, this is how it will look like. It is already ICO'd. VNest, home sharing platform, which is on blockchain, which is disrupting the old or the so-called new platform much more faster. Right? Last, which is most important for the people of the young generation, social media. What is happening with social media today? It's being used as a political tool. It's being used as something to, confidential information is being misused, misrepresenting view of the employer or others. How do you control it? What if I come up with a Twitter or a Facebook, which is on blockchain? Your tweets cannot be censored because it's immutable. Direct message can be encrypted end to end. You have full control over your data. No central authority can access it or deny it. If you encrypt your data and store it, you are the only person to decrypt it. Private micropayments can be utilized. right? So that is what our friend, the legal friend, was making a point with crypto, how to fuel it, right? So this is going to bring much more bigger change in the way we do use social media today. I'm just done. So that's the platform EtherTweet. Another platform is developed by a Bangalore-based startup called Murmur app, which is also available for you to download. Uh, I think I'll come to your question. There's something interesting which has happened, right? So you saw world's top five industries here, and telco is at the bottom, which is close to 1,000 billion dollar industry. Uh, Last week, someone launched a blockchain-based phone. You don't need a SIM. You don't need a service provider. You don't need a central authority to control your calls. You can use this phone to make calls to anyone, totally anonymous, and then you have full data encryption on it. They had to build lots of set of protocols, and though it's on Android 9.0, so that it's compatible backward. I was before looking at this, I was thinking which is the industry which is untouched from blockchain as a phenomena. I couldn't think of any, and that's where we are. Right. So I'll take a pause. I rest my case. That's me. I'll open the house for the questions. Yeah.
It means that it's the end of Geo also in some sense.
Okay. So,
or can Geo himself move on to a blockchain platform and disrupt his own business? Can existing businesses move, or do you need a separate guy, a new kid on the block who will come in?
So there are three parts of it. One is the telco infrastructure, which you need to do any kind of business, right? Which is a copper cable, fiber cable, and all. That business you cannot disrupt because ultimately you need it. No matter what software you put on top of it, ultimately you are going to use data, so that will remain as it is. OTTs are already there. You are anyway using WhatsApp for the call, right? So it was anyway without SIM you were able to make calls. What has happened in this case is this gives you a private key and the unique identity, and with the help of Wi-Fi, you can trace a call to anyone anywhere. But if it becomes much more larger than the telco, then it will disappear. Because for people to adopt it needs to have that minimal threshold. Right now, coming back to Geo or any Indian ID player. So today, if you look at Geo and Airtel are among the top two players in the world, plus top 10 countries in the world who is using eSIM. eSIM was never used in other countries, but in new iPhone they are giving you eSIM. What is a SIM? SIM is a card which you go and buy from the shop. Why it is needed? It gives you a unique ID. What if you can have a soft unique ID? Why do you need a hard unique ID? Which is already embedded in the SIM, which you can configure, right? So this way they are already at the front edge and using lots of things. Plus Geo is coming up their own token, Geo token, and quite a lot of things they are doing, right? So yeah, people are thinking, and we will reach there pretty soon. Any other questions? Great. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
So now we have Mr. Simon Coffey, editor-in-chief, Irish Tech News, on an exclusive keynote. We go live. Your mic is off, actually. Sorry. And mic options off. So yes, we hear you live.
Yes. Okay, so sound is okay?
Sound good? I think it's better now.
Okay, good, yeah.
Just check. We have? Okay, let's go.
Okay, so, thanks very much for having me. It's great to be talking and thinking about blockchain in India. I first met the guys in Dubai, and I mean, with the Wise team, they've been all around the world looking to find the most interesting stories and covering things. It was very interesting for us to be in Dubai and look at what happens when a government is very active in supporting blockchain technologies. Obviously, to do this right, you need a perfect combination of a good supportive environment as well as a good team, good technologies, and something useful and viable to build on the blockchain. I guess over the last year and more, well, I guess blockchain with Bitcoin, great proof of technology, great proof of concept. And over the last few years, we've begun to see super useful things that can be done using the blockchain. If you need to measure micro transfers of value, there are things you can do that you couldn't do before because we didn't have the degree of sophistication to measure things in a small way. So for this reason, there has been an explosion of interest, investment, and things happening. At the same time, sometimes maybe things have got overheated and hyped faster than the capacity of what is possible to do. Now, I have some slides. So the first slide I gave you guys was the one just about the summit, and then the second one is just where I am in it. So I'm going to the third slide now, which is the one that says the need for blockchain adoption in developing countries. This is an area where there's massive potential for countries like India, continents like Africa, and then also in China, because the actual things that need to do this, the costs are relatively low. So therefore, if you can have the right team and the right skills and train the technologists in the right area, it's more than possible for an excellent project to come out of somewhere in Bangladesh, Bangalore or somewhere like that. So we're very much reaching the point that if you have the quality of the product, then the location becomes neutral in terms of the clients making decisions about which technology they want to buy. So on one hand, this provides a massive opportunity for areas like India. So I guess this is the overall context. With the fourth slide is just me and who I am. After the talk, I'm going to share slides on the SlideShare. So anything that's mentioned, you can then have a reference, and it'll have all my contact details. Again, the fifth slide is just some of the media outlets that I'm co-founder and organizer of. So you can see Irish Tech News and CryptoCoin.news. And obviously this is great. This is a day job, but it's also really useful because it means that we're having people pitch their technologies to us on a daily basis. So it's a really useful and interesting way to take the pulse of what's happening, what's interesting. When we got it was great that you you guys, the organisers, shared me the things that other people are talking about, because regulation, medical records, there are certain areas where blockchain lends itself really well to the kind of technology and the solutions that it can offer. And equally, on the media side, when you keep seeing, 4 or 5 different companies making a play for medical record storage, having that balance of it's on the blockchain, but also it's securitized so that it's not, between the different private and public chains. So this helps to get an idea of what's trending. I guess, and I think this is important because there's often a counter argument from people saying that this is just hype. Bitcoin is a bubbly cryptocurrency, and where's the real value? I've been following the thread on Twitter this morning, and then there was another tweet saying that of 43 blockchain startups, none have actually built a product. Well, thankfully, I've seen a lot of other ones that have built products, have launched things, and therefore I think it's important to fight through the hype, but also to fight back and explain that there are already really interesting blockchain solutions and technologies that have already been built. So my 6th slide is the one of the picture of the Red Fort. So I have been to Delhi before. I would love to come back. We're talking about maybe when you do the next one in the new year. I think it's great to actually be on the ground and talk to people and see what's happening. And therefore, that's something that I hope that will happen. And I hope also, ideally, if you can get Tim Draper over, I think that'd be really useful to get them to touch and feel and meet people and see what you're doing. So I guess that's just an acknowledgement of where you guys are and where I hope to be to come and see you guys in the new year. So I guess my 7th slide is just very much the massive potential that India has. We've seen with China over the last 10 to 15 years how much can be achieved once you focus your investment and your technology in the right place. And India, very much so. We just reviewed the book, The Billionaire Raj, and in it there's just so many examples of so many different areas and regions of India where interesting and dynamic things are happening. And with the number of people coming through the colleges, you can see that this will only be the same with developers. Previously, I worked with Ericsson, and a large amount of our work was outsourced to Wipro in India anyway. So already it's acknowledged that the talent is in India. And with the head of Microsoft, between Indians in India and Indians overseas, the technology is there, the expertise is there, and I think it makes it very exciting. I think we could see new interesting things happening with people who've gone overseas, worked for a while, and then come back and decided to launch their next project in India. So I think the timing of this is good and the location is great as well. And then slide 8 is just very much saying that you have the people, you have the tech, and you have the network. And I think this will leads itself well to great potential. At the same time, in slide 9, where I have the picture, we've been doing a lot around looking at what's happening in Africa, what's happening in China. A lot of Chinese investment is going into Africa. And I think similarly with India, you have to keep investing and you have to, it's a dynamic and smooth situation. While we hear a lot about, US and trade, tariffs and stuff, I think the reality is that where the most interesting things are going to be happening will be equally as much in other parts of the world, because they're going to have so many advantages. With the various brands of Indian phones, it shows that technology can now be built to a quality equally matching what was out there from other countries, but at a price which is much less. And I think all of that, shows that it will only encourage more investment, because there are things that maybe previously would be concerns that are not concerns in terms of deliverability and quality of products. So I think all of this lends itself to kind of a very exciting time. Now, my 10th slide is the one that says a year is a long time in crypto. And this is the thing that if we're in December 2018, if we go back to, I guess from August to December 2017, the actual prices of Bitcoin and the other leading all currencies really became the story. And in some ways, it was a bit of a distraction because while initial coin offerings and the other ways to raise crowdfunding could raise money very quickly, to build good products, you still have to have time. And therefore, the hype cycle of a particular currency going up or down by 10% per day meant that people were jumping in for the wrong reasons. When the taxi drivers and the dinner parties are talking about, I need to buy Bitcoin, then you know that it's getting a bit bubbly and that the expectations are unrealistic. And so, you know, there's one slide that I haven't added that I'd like to be just to map the price of Ether and Bitcoin and some of the others over the last 12 months. I mean, we all know, you know, it's a massive up roller coaster and a massive down roller coaster. But the trouble is that for the people who are building blockchain-related products, then this is a distraction, and often you have people going, why haven't I become a millionaire? Why can't I buy my Lamborghini with the shares I bought last week? But any good product actually takes time. And the really good ones, you've got to do bug testing, you've got to build it out, you've got to grow the network. These are all things that while we can raise money, you know, slightly incredible amounts of money in very short periods of time, which is the great thing about this type of crowdfunding, to make really good products, it still takes real time in the real world. And, you know, anyone who says they can do something in a week to 3 weeks to 3 months, it probably is too good to be true. And I think you've got to have that balance between you may be able to raise money fast, but to build the right things could easily take 6 to 18 months and more. And also, which part of the world you're going to launch it to first. I mean, that's the whole aspect of, you know, every continent. If you talk about Africa, almost every country needs a different strategy. To grow something out of one country takes time. So I guess it's that thing to balance between, while it seems like a lot's happened in the last year, the reality is to do things well, it takes more time than that. And I think if you rush it, then you know, you fall over and there are mistakes, and then you annoy the users you're trying to build. So it's better to build more steadily and have everyone on board and have people go, this is a great product, I see where they're going, and I understand why, you know, they haven't conquered the world by tomorrow, because that's unrealistic. Slide 11 is very much then talking about, well, where are we now? Where are we now? And from slide 11 to slide 12 is, you know, the great Gartner chart about inflated expectations and then the trough of disillusionment. And so I was talking to Thomas Power about, you know, how there's a feeling that we're in the trough of disillusionment. In some ways we are. And he said, yeah, but on the other hand, consensus hiring 1,000 people. So I mean, he said, if that's disillusionment, I still feel that we need to remember that while the hype cycle is hype, but underneath there's underlying technology and good people building the right things. But as I said, with timeframes on a more realistic timeframe, rather than, you know, I've told you about it. I did a sketch on the back of an envelope and it's ready by tomorrow. That's not realistic, and I think we need to push back sometimes on the kind of things that we're doing. And even with the nature of the conference today, it's very much about investors looking to match with the right products, but then everyone on both sides has to do the due diligence. Obviously, in my role as an advisor, I try to make sure that if you are being offered investment, you know, you're doing it on good terms for both sides, and that it's not, you know, a land grab by the investor. And equally with the investor, I would chat to them to make sure that the guys that they're looking to invest in have a realistic product and a realistic time frame. And, you know, I guess in this way, the more research you do, the more you dig into it, the more you can see what's the capacity of this team and how soon can they do it. And these are really important things, so that we have less of this hype chart of extreme highs and extreme lows, and we have more of a measured progression towards building things that are right and appropriate. At the same time, I think it's a good chart to keep in mind, because, you know, for those that know less about crypto, and like, so my mum, for example, would come back to me from BBC News and mainstream media and say, oh, I'm very worried that you're working in crypto because I've heard that it's a tulip scheme and it's going to bubble. And you're like, well, that's because this is a more complex story. And therefore, mainstream media sometimes oversimplifies it down to just the bubble and the price, and they make the story about the price of Bitcoin, whereas actually it should be about what blockchain can do, what's realistic for it to do, and how soon can they do it by. So I think that we all partly have a role to work in education to explain to people what more realistic timeframes are. And I think if we do, then the hype gets less hypey, and then people understand to do things well. It takes time. So then my next slide says what's next. With the what's next, and then on slide 14, this is the thing about communication. And while we move into more and more interesting tech solutions, at the same time, with a lot of the founders that I speak to and I meet, sometimes they go super product heavy. And again, when you're pitching, it's try to work out who your audience is and what they want to know and how much they want to know. And therefore, they may not necessarily need to know as much information as you think they do in terms of the particular technology you're using. And it can be, on one hand, like obviously the guys who are creating and building these things are geniuses in their own way, and that's why they can make innovative stuff. They're building solutions to things that we haven't built solutions to before. But at the same time, if I'm an investor and I don't understand what you're doing, I still need you to be able to explain to me in a few lines why it's actually useful what you're doing and what the value is. And I think some super smart tech founders sometimes feel that's a bit below them. But the thing is that as the founders, you are also the ambassadors for what you do. And if you can't articulate it to investors, to us, to the media, to the people that are helping to communicate you to a wider audience, then you'll get lost in the noise, because there are many other good products out there. And if someone can more effectively communicate what they're doing versus what yours, even though your product may be better, you could easily suffer. So I think this communication, it's interesting. It's still about people talking to people, and I think you still need to be able to articulate what you're doing and why what you're doing is interesting. And so I guess if someone asks you a question and they say, I don't understand, maybe don't get irritated, but work out why is it they don't understand what you're doing, because that way you'll build alliances, and then you'll build other people who can articulate why what you're doing has value. So it's a funny one, but I think we all need to kind of maybe less is more. Also, here we are, so I'm speaking to you guys, and English is your second or third language, and I think this is something that people need to remember and realise. It's not about three-letter acronyms, ABC, this or that. It's about breaking it back down to readable language. And I mean, even from my time in India, I would love reading the Indian newspapers, but at times I wouldn't really understand some of what it's saying, because the language is so poetic and so flowering. And I think sometimes we feel the need to show how well we know the language, whereas sometimes if we can speak simply, then we may reach the Chinese audience, we may reach an Indian audience, and there's a much wider audience if we reach people whose second, third, or fourth language is English. By using English. So I think it's just something to remember and think about when we communicate. And also, it's a funny one, sometimes people throw out so many three-letter acronyms. I will say, look, I don't know what that means. And on one hand, you feel bad by saying you don't know, but on the other hand, it's better that we're all speaking about the same terminology, and we're not assuming that we both think we mean the same things when we don't. So it might be obvious, but it's interesting, and I think it's important. Slide 15 is talking about openness of shared learning, and some of the best projects are the ones where the CEO is visible. Maybe they do a 1-minute piece to YouTube every couple of days explaining the progress of what they're doing. The communications are strong on Medium, and they're articulating what they're doing, also what they haven't done, why they haven't done it. And I think the more you can be open, the more people understand where you are on your path and what the bumps in the road are. But at the same time, it also builds fans and people that go, look, these guys are being straight up with us, and I'd rather that, because I know they have a more realistic approach to work. And it's a bit like Linux, it's a bit like the open source programs, that I think it works with communication. Obviously, some stuff is proprietary, you keep it proprietary, but in other things, I think communication is super useful, and you'll gain more from it. So I have a slide, 16th slide, is about interesting ICOs to watch. These are ones, I guess, as a counter to the comment that blockchain products haven't built anything yet. There are a lot that have built really interesting things, and I think they're worth watching. And I guess for me, I'm following the Twitter feed because I want to learn what the latest interesting things are in India as well. So hopefully it's a two-way process. I want to make sure I haven't spoken too much, but my final slide has all my contact details, so please do message me, and hopefully then it's an ongoing conversation, and then I look forward to learning more and being in presence for the next one in the spring, hopefully. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Simon. He's available for an AMAQ campaign. Anyone has any questions?
Okay, sorry. Any questions for Simon? No, that's fine.
All right. Thank you very much. Get back to you.
Perfect. Great. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
हैप्पी माइक ले लीजिए माइक बोल एक्स्ट्रा माइक एक और माइक
Now I'd like to call on stage Mr. Giacomo Arcaro and Giovanni Casafran to discuss about marketing and tokenization.
Hello. Hi everybody. I'm free remote controller. Okay. Okay. Hi everybody. So today I'm Giacomo like this morning from Italy, and Giovanni will come here later. I will just tell you what is about growth at your business in the ICO world and how to grow that your personal branding. Does anyone working already on LinkedIn? Anyone? Okay, anyone? Just him is working in LinkedIn. What if I tell you if me and Giovanni in 6 months we triple our income by posting once in a day, every day on LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn, you can do a lot of business. And as for the personal branding by using LinkedIn, for the branding of your ICO, for your SEO, for your traditional company, those kind of infos are really impressive, because what I'm trying to tell you, it's okay. So this is growth hacking. What is growth hacking is? Growth hacking is a mix between marketing, development, data analysis, and all those three things putting together to create growth hacking. And growth hacking is important in being famous thanks to startups like Dropbox, like Hotmail, that bring famous to the growth hacking. And yeah, Forbes said that I'm one of the biggest European growth hackers. So the Tipatoni, which is an Italian journal, they state and why I'm on the top 20 crypto finance world advisor. But you just have to pay. You pay and you go on this journal. But no, this is not that. It's not that simple. And we are in the top 10 of ICO events and on ICO Bazaar. So what I'm gonna tell you, worth 10 minutes with me and Giovanni, worth about 2,000 keys. 2,000 euros. So I recommend you to be focused on what I'm going to tell you right now. Because we advise, as I told you before, about 100 ICOs and STOs, and we are partner, and we help traditional business like Bulgari in Italy or like Ferrari. So what I'm going to tell you is really interesting. And it came through a lot of feeders. Like a lot of figures, because in the last months of 2017, we were working with YouTube ads, Google ads, and Facebook ads, and Instagram ads by helping ICOs and STOs. But we growing and we throw away about $500,000 euros. That's a lot, much more. Why? Does anyone working with those kind of platforms actually? No one of you ever tried with those kind of platforms? Okay. Well, better because you have saved your money in the ICO and STO world. I mean, so if you have an ICO or STO, don't use these kinds of platforms because you're gonna throw away your money. Because the platform you should use are this one, LinkedIn. First of all, guys, I will get back on this topic again. Reddit, Bitcoin Talk, Medium, Twitter, Telegram, iPro, which is not which is the platform, and ISO listing. Well, I really recommend ISO Bench and ISO Over. So let's start with LinkedIn. This is my profile. I receive about 50 messages per day. They're not spam. All ICOs and STOs and people in the crypto world by asking me to be advisor to help them with rising funds. And I have a reach of about, let me check this up. I have a reach of about 100,000 weekly reach. So me and Giovanni were one of the biggest European influencer thanks to LinkedIn. And once you're an influencer, and you write an article, for example, about Steve Wozniak, which is the co-founder of Apple and the name of my dog. I've been on the fourth place in the first page of Google with an article on this is not the right okay, it's here. Okay, this is my article in LinkedIn. So my post on LinkedIn goes on the first page of Google. Imagine if your post about your company goes on the first page of Google without paying any SEO or any advertising. So LinkedIn is a powerful tool, and you should use it. We have created a special software in order to bring to you over 5,000 followers, links and targeted to your account. So you can just launch our software and you will receive about 5,000 targeted. So if you are a developer and you're looking for ICOs, we can bring you to the ICOs. If you are an investor, we can bring you interesting STOs and so on. So this is Twitter, and also with Twitter we develop a special tool in order to bring to you about 20 followers in 23 minutes. They are all highly targeted. I started my Twitter account about 3 months ago and already reached 8,000 followers. And it's all true, not fake. And also the mentions and the likes are good. But especially for the Web Summit, I would like to share with you a special trick. I don't know if you are confident with the URL and accounts. Probably this is a pro thing, but I'm going to share it to you anyway. So, there's a way in order to bring to you on the top of Google page, thanks to Twitter, by stealing, between comments, stealing the accounts to your competitors or your mentors like John McAfee. Because if you type twitter.com/John McAfee, you will find that this account has been suspended. I don't know why, but it's been suspended. So you should use some tracker to monitorize which users has been suspended or John McAfee probably changed the name in John McAfee real. So by having a look to the John McAfee URL page, once it will be reply you back with the 404 error, you will be able to steal the page and catch the page to your own. You can do the same with Bitcoin, probably would be different and really hard, but you can grab this username and you will send it. So how is it supposed to do with the account of John McAfee? This account has got about 120 backlinks on the most important websites like Bloomberg, like Bitcoin.com, like Cointelegraph, and this page ranked to 1. So if you guys will catch this user, I'm after that, so it's really hard to get this user. But there's a lot of users, about 50 users. And the example of this kind of method to rise your business, it's our partner, which is Alessandro Benigni, which has got a website, coinhook.com, which is a Bitcoin news website, which was the rise to the first page of Google in just 5 months by stealing 20 accounts on Twitter and doing some SEO, like SEO. But anyway, if you have a question, we can discuss it later by one-to-one or anything. Medium. Anyone who's using Medium? Okay, cool one. So with Medium, you can rise on the top page of Google and top page of Medium by increasing the number of claps. You will increase the number of claps by buying the font verified accounts. And here in India, but in Bangalore, there's a lot of sellers of font verified account. And once you buy a font verified account, you can clap until what's the maximum clap? The maximum is till 50,000. Yeah, the more you have clap, the more you rise on Google, on Medium. The more you rise on Medium, the more you rise on Google. So also Medium is really, really important for your blog. Okay, now the things is gonna get a little bit complicated because Reddit. I know it's the ugliest social network ever seen. It sucks. No one is using it, but it's the first platform for the spreading voice of your articles. So, these 4 things you should do in order to reach the top with your ICO, STO, or traditional business. So, you have to be sure to have 10 accounts with Karma. Be sure to have at least 5,000 normal users. You have to buy those. We're talking about dollars, not $1,000. You start posting 10 links per month with Karma users and start commenting each post with the user. So your post will be also always on the first row in Reddit. If you do this, you will reach, like our customer, you will reach 45,000 readers, 10 points with 100% of that vote, and 34.9 currently online people to a project which is BQT, is one of our Miami customers. And it's really impossible with this amount of this budget with any other platforms like Facebook Ads, Instagram Ads, Google Ads to reach 45,000 readers. So Reddit should be used to do that, and it's going to recommend to you. The other one is more than ugly than Reddit. It's bitcointool.org. Does anyone using it? Okay, great. So bitcointool.org. You have to write just one, but it should be your right best post. You have to be sure to have at least 150,000 users. Why? Because you have to start commenting 6 times per day in order to keep high the level of your conversation in order to be always on the first page of Bitcoin Talk. And since Bitcoin Talk has got about 20 million views per month, if your post would be on the first page, it would be more important than being on Forbes or buy an article on Wired as we did in life. And yeah, you have to. Your target on Bitcoin Talk is to keep always on the first page of Bitcoin Talk. And obviously Telegram. So with Telegram, we have discovered and created a new way to, again, steal users from the other Telegram groups. You know that the first way to get first by the private is Telegram, and also by the for the whale investors, because the whale investors is they are always asking us, okay, I will invest, but how many users is chatting? How many users is engagement? What's the engagement? What's the what people are saying on Telegram about this ICO? So it's really important to take care of your Telegram, and we developed this kind of path. First of all, create the users for you to form your competitors group. I mean, let's say that Factor Kitchen and wants to grab the users. What's your competitor? I don't know. So let's imagine that's a competitor with 2,000 people in the group. You just go in the group, you scrape all the user ID. Once you have scraped, you have to buy, again, from verified account in order to invite all the people into the group. So you will have the copycat group of people and engagement into your Telegram group. You can do this also if you have a website of news information, Bitcoin information, and so on. So it's not only for ICOs. Once you have invited, you have to hire some good community manager because it will be like this. So this is a Fidelity House. It's one of our ICOs, and we have 96,000 followers in it. So Fasanaro will be happy to see that. Yeah. So, but it's like crazy because we are receiving like one message every second. So this is insane. But we rose just on Telegram about $3 million in 2 months. So this is really important. And now I'd like to introduce you to Giovanni Casagrande, which is you saw this morning. He's number 5th advisor of the board, top chart. So he will explain you how to reach the top of the ICO listing website to go to the vote.
Hi everyone. Only 3 or 4 words about eco-listing websites. What are eco-listing websites? I think some of you can know what is this. 50 years ago was Directory. Directory is the website where you can put your website, your information, and this website can improve position on Google and on Google search. Just now, from 2 years ago, was born eco-listing website. On this website, you can put your project with all information, with the web paper, team, all information investors need. Because if investors want to check all this website before invest the money. But one point is important about this website. The rates, first of all, and the reviews. Rates is your point. But your point is important. If your project is good, your point is up. If your project is bad, your review, your rates will be low. And review, other important points. I know you are fake because I think most of you know the first one website in the world, ICObench. Where you can find a review, but the problem is most of these reviews are fake, and me and Giacomo we are finding a new solution for these bad things. But I won't say all of you and. Don't buy review because it's a problem for the website. It's a problem for everyone. Also for investors, you can check your project and find a fake review, and I think not invest. So, as I said, the importance of eco-listing website for investors is all the information. You have to put inside the website all right information. Now I want to show my special ranking, where you can find all the website where you can put your project. There are a lot in the world, a lot of projects in the world. I like at least the website in the world, but this 10 I think is the best for me. And the first one is ICObench, but not first one because have more views. But I think it's the better. I think it's your project had to be that. And all the others, I don't want to speak about one by one, but I want to show you all these ranking. So,
Okay. Question is.
Yeah, okay.
Have you other things to say?
Yeah, it's
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, you can follow us on Giovanni Instagram or LinkedIn, and me as well on my LinkedIn or Instagram. So we can help you with the personal branding. We can share for you some information, some tips. We are here until tonight at 3 o'clock. Then we will go to Taj Mahal. Yeah, it's the first time in India. We should go. We need to go there. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. The lawyer. Oh my God.
A big problem.
Big problem.
Please.
When I was reading a case law of US SEC putting a penalty of $700,000 on it was music director DJ Khalid and it was boxer Floyd Mayweather's only because they were marketing a certain ICO. They got some $50,000 worth of tokens, and they ended up paying $300,000 worth in penalties. So, as an individual or maybe as some enthusiast here, if they also run maybe marketing companies, how do they get those safeguards done so that they don't end up paying 6x the penalty?
Yeah, so the question is how to avoid being fined by the authorities.
So be a ICO marketeer person, yet avoid the fines.
Yeah, it's really hard to spot the scam one if the scammer is a true one scammer. Like we truly believe. Now the friends who was with me at the dinner yesterday, will confirm. I won't say the name, but I know that this is scammer. I think biggest, no, but I won't say that. No, there's a lot of scammers in this world, and you have to pay attention for that. But even as you said before, also the startups, 90% failed, like Steve Madden in the dot-com bubble. So, but in this case, they won't be persecuted because most of them have no company, have no banking account, just storing with you without changing in fiat money. So you have to pay attention, and with ICO Bench and all the other companies we are collaborating with, we are spotting the scams. We have a special chat on Telegram where we are spotting with solid proofs in order to get rid of the scammers. And it's not about advisor to spot the scammers, but it will be about KPMG and Ernst Young and lawyers that will be audit every single ICOs and STOs. And with ICOs, I hope there will be less and less scammers in this world. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kikomo and Giovanni, for the marketing brief. Next, we have on stage one of our own marketing gurus, Raghav Soni, CMO Blockchain PR Buzz, and he is going to discuss about.
Cool. So, tiring evening, everybody. So, we all are sitting here listening to each and everybody, their point of view, their thoughts, their ideas, their pitches. So, great. So, do you have my slides in place? Okay. So I will be say I was more than happy when say I discussed it with my teammates and I was able to get this opportunity to speak on the topic. It's not a pitch, nothing, but how can we market an ICO in the right way so that we can derive maximum benefits out of it. So to start with, so I'm Raghav, Chief Marketing Officer to Blockchain PR Buzz, just an ordinary marketing guy with a specialization in the same. So I would love to start this thing by say thanking the Wire Summit team to hand this podium over to me to express my views in front of the blockchain sitting here. If I talk about blockchain PR Buzz, so this company has worked with 83 projects till now. We have supported them in terms of their marketing gains and spreading awareness, fundraising, each and everything. So basically, we are providing end-to-end marketing solution to projects and taking them to the right places in front of the right people at the right point of time. Next. Okay. So why is blockchain marketing important? So people are here discussing about blockchain marketing, how it is done, how it is not, what are the pros, what are the cons, the cost associated with it, the ROIs project can deliver from these. But nobody has yet thought that what would have happened if the marketing concept is not introduced in this thing. So how would people be able to communicate about their projects? How do they exactly spread awareness and the features that they vouch on to gather funds? So my personal belief is the difference, the key difference, if we consider a success or a failure for any project, is lies in the marketing itself. One should plan a winning marketing strategy from the initiation phase only so that they can reach out to the right target audiences and can say, have a bang when they launch their product. Now, let us just consider. So on an average, there are about 100 odd projects that launch every month. And they have similar concepts, similar ideas, strong team members. But then why is that so? That all of them are not able to gather equal importance or say awareness if I talk about marketing terms. So if say randomly if I would ask someone to name 10 ICOs from last month, normally a person would not be able to do so, the new ones that launched in the market. So this is the thing. Now let me quote some names. Next slide. Money Token, Ubex, IHC, Blockchain.io. So what is different with these projects? These are not the projects that raised abrupt amount of money from the markets or neither they ran away. But they were the projects that raised the decent amount, along with the brand recall they were able to make for them. They were there in everybody's mind. So if I take the name Ubex, somewhere in this room, someone would ring a bell. Okay, so I have seen this project somewhere, either on Etherscan or CoinDesk or HackerNoon or any reputed platform like that. Now, so the difference was these projects created their buzz along with say raising good market, raising say earning reputation, highlighting their features well. Now all the things come that how were these projects able to do so? The first thing that they did was they engaged with the community at the right point of time. Not just before the launch, not in the pre-ICO period, not in the post-ICO period, but way before that. So these were the people, so when they were planning to execute certain things, they entered the market, they interacted with the community. So that is why they do. So what is the requirement of the market? What kind of projects are being liked by the people? And what kind of marketing activities are exactly needed to gather the attention of the potential investors like in Telegram, Twitter, or any other platform like that? The marketing plan should at least start 3 months before the launch of your project, because that is the say, I would love to quote that, minimum time period for an SEO campaign to happen. So that is how you will be able to say, rank your website high when you are ready with all the stuff. Now, when a person has got an opportunity and say ran into everything, he's ready with everything, his strategies are good to go. Now, the person sees and say, I would love to quote this. What will be the components that a person should be looking for? So if you're carrying out an ICO project and you want to schedule a marketing campaign or create one of your own, so these are the basic components that should be taken care of. The first one is the content. If we talk about this arena, there are two types of content that can be written for a blockchain project. The one should be informative one. The other one is the promotional one. The informative one generally covers the news, the partnerships that the project has tried, or the technology comparison. The promotional one that is usually published on platform is that only revolves around the crypto platforms and the features and what is ICO all about, the pre-sale, the bonus involved in it, and things like that. Next. Next. Okay, so this is the basic segmentation. If I talk about general use platforms, these are the ones promoting your informational content. The ones which will say, make you good backlinks. When you search your project in Google, these are the ones claiming your partnerships that get striped with other companies, quoting the brand mentions where they are comparing your technology with the good ones so that you are creating some value in the market. The other ones are the promotional ones that are, say, frequently common in the crypto world, which are sponsored posts and press releases. They just highlight your features and tell about the project. Now, it's another important aspect if I talk about sponsored posts and press releases too. So there are platforms and cases where at the cost of one sponsored release, you can either go for 5 press releases. Now, why is that so? Why is the cost important? The platform is same, the publisher is same, but why? So sponsored post is just the trending thing that you're getting on the platform's main landing page. On the similar post, you are able to publish your news 5 times in a month at the same thing. So it entirely depends on the team. So what values them more and what is their ideology. The other important thing after this is SEO. So SEO is important, as we all know. One should want. So if some person is searching the project or a related technology, the website should rank first. That is the primary thing where we can gather awareness from. And if we are gathering awareness, obviously we are attracting the interest of potential investors or the users to our project. Social media community. So there are different platforms if I talk about social media community itself. Now if we talk about Facebook, Twitter, Steemit, so n number of platforms are there. People need to use these platforms well. We need to have good engagement in these platforms. Leaving any single platform in an ICO is a crime. If you are ignoring something, then boss, you're losing out in the game. Because let us imagine a person Googling your ICO name and he's able to track Bitcoin Talk good engagement, could see your engagement on Facebook and Twitter, but when he researches it more and it's only visible that the results are from the bounty campaigns that have been run and nothing else. The irrelevant comments are there, likes are there. So automatically the person would lose interest and your money is gone. Nobody is willing to invest in a project that does not maintain an organic engagement on their platforms. And each and every platform holds an important value. Because it's not like that if someone is talking to me, they'll only look at my face, they look at my attire, they look at my shoes, they look at my hairstyle too. So similar is the case with ICOs. Now the core platforms, if we talk about this arena, will be Bitcoin Talk, Telegram and Reddit. These are the platforms where the community people are more, they engage more, they interact more, they talk more. The bounty campaigns can be held there and the investor related queries can directly reach out to the project concerned person. So if they want to invest. Next. Now let me start with this thing. Ad campaign. So this has been a very sensitive issue because several times there were news when blockchain and cryptocurrency ads are banned on Google, on Facebook, on Twitter. So there are things like that. Coinzilla runs this crypto related ads on various platforms. That's not the issue. But if we talk about Google and Facebook and Twitter, platforms like these ban the ads, but you should need and you should have an experienced team, a good set of people who are really good when it comes to keywords and play with them well so that your ads are still running in place. And no matter what the restrictions are, your ICO is visible to the people all over the world. The targeting segmenting is being done. Next. Influencer marketing. So it was, so in my belief, it was a very core component if you talk about ICO or STO or blockchain projects marketing. Because there used to be influencers, or there are influencers that rate the project, that review the project, But nowadays, what has happened is many unbiased reviews are prevailing in the market. People are charging abnormal amount of money from you, and obviously, when you're paying someone IFT, say 1 BTC or zero point 0.5 BTC, you will not accept bad ratings for your project. You will just ask him to go and say, why I'm paying to you if you're paying me this. So this clouds the judgment. So even if I'm an investor, I see 10 positive reviews, I'll think, okay, boss, there is something fishy in the project. How can a person or every person review this project in the same category, judge this in the same way, and no cons have been found? So one should invest in the influencer marketing in just basic or a little in it, because this thing does not come easy. And nowadays, the valuable of influencer marketing or the influencer reviews have decreased. The next thing, next slide please. Event and roadshows, the best and the say most practiced ways for the say, successful ICOs. They are throwing themselves around the whole world. Their project awareness is being done. They are interacting with the people from different communities, different religions, and different regions. So they are making their presence felt, and they are obviously giving a confidence to the person. Boss, I am the one taking my project to you out in your country, different from my place, my homeland, my origin country, my business country. So I have an ambition to go for. And if you join me in this journey, I take you along with me. Next. The last part, but not said. So it's last, but we should not say least. There are many aspects too that are still uncovered and untold. So it's online reputation management or maintaining engagement. If I talk about search engines or say seeing what kind of good backlinks your project have. For the first, we start with good, say, kind of leadership profiling thing. Your project should be not just the ICO listing, the project listing, the business entity listing should be there. So it should list the following business activities that your business is doing, the kind of benefits that it's giving to the society, the revenue it's generating. In that way, you are able to say earn and say generate some respect as well as trust from the potential investors that their business model has proved to be successful. They're not just a bunch of guys playing a fluke in the market and they take our money and just run away. The other thing is regular engagement on social media platforms, as I explained above. Leaving anything, say, incomplete or thing like that behind, it's just a killer thing to do. You would not want to do that with your project. Good backlinks, informative one, publish on top media platform, entrepreneur, Forbes, technology related, brand mentions. Anything would work, but you should rank in these statements because that shows the confidence of society in your market. So if a person is ready with the project, MVP is there, everything is going fine, and is sitting in front of the investor and about to close in private investment, instead of say giving him speech of 2 hours, he would directly open say Forbes or a trusted platform like Entrepreneur or Bloomberg and say, so this platform vouches for us. The third person in written this thing compared our technology to the superior one, and we really have some juice in us. So that works brilliantly. Listings. So there are numerous numbers of listings should be done. The cost effectiveness lies here is when the effective mix of free listing platforms as well as paid listing platforms are used. I won't quote any names, but there are, say, somewhere around what? 100 platforms where you can get your ICO listed for free. And then there are 20 to 30 which are the primes and they charge you some money to take your platform listed, to get your ICO listed there. Email marketing. Email marketing is the best way to create brand recall. If you have a specified data or if you have hired an agency that has good data of the people who are already indulged in this segment or currency or say projects like these, just float them an email newsletter every month so that in the time span of 3 months, they are able to gather and recognize. So this is the project I am being seen for 3 months in my email. Oh, I saw that on Oops too. Oh no, so there was a person vouching for it as well. So all these things make an impact when you say when it comes to the last row. So to conclude, I believe that these are all the boxes that should be ticked at least to get your ICO marketing set in place. It's not enough, but you will definitely do good if all these boxes are checked. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sani, to telling us the right way to do the blockchain marketing. Now, I would like to call on stage Mr. Anand to tell us something about farm to kitchen.
Which phone is this? Can you hear me now? Are you awake? Yes. Are you awake? What did I have in food, lunch? Anybody remembers? No? Okay, maybe we can, I will brief. My name is Anand Doli. I'm basically from farmer's family. So you must be wondering what the farmer is doing here at this blockchain conference. So a couple of good stories to tell you, and then maybe you can understand why I'm standing here. So maybe we can start the slides, and I will. You have the. What? So I come from Nashik. Have you heard of Nashik? Yes. How many of you drink wine? Nashik is the wine capital of India. Anyway, so I come from Nashik, and since my childhood, I have never seen a single year passing by like this. Every year I see hundreds and thousands of tons of food, tomatoes, onions, grapes, thrown on the road. These are thrown on the road. These are not in the market. Okay? These are thrown on the road. The reason is the farmers don't get prices. Yesterday you must have seen a big march of farmers in Delhi, isn't it? These are some of the reasons I'm going to talk about, why I'm standing here. This every year, I mean, since childhood, in my childhood, I used to enjoy it. I used to go with my uncle Chanat and throw this on the road. I used to like it. Wow, this is so funny. And as I grew up, the anger became more because I know these are people are throwing their hard-earned crop because they're not getting the right price, right? These are all real pictures. These are not made up. These are every year you will see the Open Times of India. Anytime between November to December or March, April, you will find this. Now, what we do now, we have farm kitchen. There are two companies running in this. I'll tell you our story. This is the real story. You see the woman standing there? That's my wife actually, that's my kid. In 2008, I was in the US working with IBM and we were looking for something to eat good because my wife was planning pregnancy. So she thought that it's better to have organic food. So, as they say, if you eat good, the embryo becomes good and you get a good child. Right? So that's how we started our search. I used to roam around in New York's areas. I used to go to Whole Foods and find out what good stuff they have to sell and why it is organic. So that's how it started. After I come from farmer's family, being specific, organic farming was not in my blood. So then we started research. Since last 6-7 years, we started our own stores. This is the farm to kitchen store. This is how it looks like. You can find out all the organic food stuff there. We talk about globalization, that's good, right? But when we talk about the food chain, it's not really a supply chain, it's a supply network. I go to Thailand, I buy something from, I buy a box of grapes and I find out, wow, this is made in India, but it might be coming from Chile. They are lying to you. They are putting the labels, they are lying to you. It's not from India. The grape is not from India, it might be from Chile. So this is globalization, but it is cheating with you also. Now, if you talk about the food pricing problems, and these are the figures by World Health Organization. 420,000 people die every year because of food poisoning. Whenever we get sick, we go to home, whatever our mother says, kal kya khaya tha? Kahan pe khaya? The reason is always food, always food. 600 million people, that is 1 out of 10 in every, on this earth gets sick of because of food poisoning. So what are the real problems? Food safety. We talk about, I don't know where the food is coming from. So that's a real big problem. We don't know whether it's really fresh or it is kept fresh. If you go to Mumbai, you buy green fresh, you will find out it's grown around these railway tracks, which are filthy, mud, fed up with weed and every other chemical in the world. You eat that. You find it very green, it's not safe for you. We talk about the marketplace. We talked about the farmers market yesterday in Delhi. I think 1 lakh farmers came here, asking for the right prices. That is the biggest challenge because they are not connected to the right market. On food security, you had just shown the pictures in the beginning that I see thousands of tons of onions, tomatoes thrown on Nasik roads every year. There are many traceability solutions. It's not that we are innovators of the traceability solution, but then there is something like one party control. There are traceability solutions which are controlled by the single party. There are complex integrations. There are a lot of companies. Google, you find a lot of companies are doing food traceability, and there is no standardization. These are the problems we're trying to address. Farm reason. This is generally how you get your food. It's grown by the farmer and it comes to your doorstep. But these are the things that we will be taking along when I talk about the farm which is blockchain. This is what we're working on right now. This is what my team is working on right now. We have a team in US, we have a team in Pune also. This is every step of the way it is reaching you, it will be traced, tracked, and every information will be stored in the blockchain. So once you buy something which is coming from the farm which is blockchain, you can just buy a box of say grapes, just scan the QR code, you will come to the farm name, the farm geolocation, the farmer name also. And if you want, we can use the details of pesticides used also. But that will be specific use case. But this is what we are going to try. That's how it end to end. This is a simple process that we use for tracing. This is obviously a standard. And then what we do is, if I'm a farmer, I'll be, say I'm sowing tomatoes today. I'll be putting the date, say whatever date is today. And the farmer, and putting in a very easy mobile app. If the farmer is not able, we'll be having agronomists, you helping them out. That's what I'm doing right now also with a lot of food producer companies. So they have agronomists who help the farmers to put the data. Generally what happens in India or maybe developing countries, the farmer always writes diary. I don't know whether you know or not, if you have seen farming. So they do is, they write everything in the diary. So it is the same thing that we are going to put in the mobile. Maybe we'll have agronomists will be putting that. We'll putting the data. As soon as it puts the data, the harvest data, the date will be suggested by the system. If somebody is a buyer, you log in as a buyer, it's not farm which is a customer. It will be software service. So if you are a buyer, you can just log in and see on of December, this much tomatoes are coming from this area. I'm talking about only particular area.
अरे किसी और से फोन लेके आओ फोन किसी और का लेके
600
आओ
million farmers connected. That's what we dream of, obviously. 600 million farmers connected to each other. I log in as a buyer. I search for my pin code area. I find out, okay, this is the rate I want for it produce. Because I have the data in the system where I can see that pomegranates, tomato, any other crop, grapes, these are coming on this particular date. I can just see. Connect directly to the farmer. That's how we're trying to avoid the middleman as well. This is a bit slow. This is the solution that we are doing. You can see at the bottom, on the base of it lies the blockchain platform. On that we have API layer and then we will have mobile apps. Admin web portal which can be used by the admins. It may be Walmart, it may be bigger players also. And then we'll have API access, and these are the things that we can set up. You can just edit out of this. We'll have food tracing on blockchain where data will be stored in master nodes. We'll be having transporter apps. If for the transporter also you can route and find out where the food is going from, how the deliveries are planned. If you're an exporter, you can plan out the deliveries for grapes so that I'm sending these many containers to Europe or whatever country and how they are tracked. And farmer producer app, obviously that for the FP organization.
हाँ जी
benefits, I think they're quite visible. So consumer, as a consumer, you get to know where your food is coming from. You had lunch today, but you don't know whether the lettuce was grown in a nice field or it was grown in some gutter. You don't know really, right? Blockchain provides the ability to find out the impact. So right now, food traceability is done. It's mostly paperwork. Most of the countries and developing countries, you can ask it obviously. But then mostly it's paperwork that will be completely gone. We will have, as I told you, a hub of farmers connected together. I log in as a farmer. I have 100 million farmers maybe, and then we log in as a buyer. You can find out the data available to buy whatever you want. Fourth is very important actually. What happens is with this data, we can analyze and mine the data further, 1,904 years, and find out that this is a particular season in North America, North Chile, or North India. What is the best crop that we should, go for? That will be AI obviously. So we'll be data mining, we can find out what exactly can be the best solution. Last but not the least, obviously I am directly connecting the farmer to the so there is no middleman. What is the price of onion today in Delhi? Anybody knows that? 25. In Nasik, it is I think 6 rupees 50 paisa. Traveling cost of onion from Nasik to Delhi is 4 rupees per kg. So that comes out 10 rupees 50 paisa. And you are saying 25 rupees. You can understand the margins. If I sell a bottle, I might charge 30%. If I sell onion, why I'm charging 500%? Nobody answers that. That is a problem actually. So onion, this is because of the middleman only, the big point. It's very big problem, but that is there. It's not a small market. It is food traceability is actually not a small market. You can see that it's a $4.5 billion opportunity, and that's why IBM was already starting their food trucks and they have launched a traceability solution. We are not copycats. It's a different solution. Ours is more of a global marketplace, farmers network, and then over the top of it, we are providing food traceability. So you can see that it's a big opportunity for anyone who is working in this particular field. I'm not here for the money. I'm already a farmer, and as I told you, I do export business also. But there's something of a passion. I do farming also today. This is the advantage we will provide. This is the trustless. This is the all blockchain terminology. So it's obviously trustless. It's quite intelligent. As I told you, if I have data of 3-4 years, I can suggest to which crops grow and which not. Easy to use tools, simple mobile apps, which can be used by farmers in their mother tongue also. And maybe if not, then we'll be helping with the agronomists. And we have very huge experience team. I have 20 years of experience. I am 40, I have 40 years of farming experience. Apart from that 20 years in IT, I worked with IBM and Nokia in my career earlier. I have a strong team and I have very, very strong advisors like Giacomo and Giovanni who are working with us, guiding us all the way. So it's been a very nice team to work with. These are some of the things, but I'm not. These are the project times are actually. So we are planning to launch this app in maybe around Feb of 19, second or first quarter, and these are the phases that we're going through. So this may be the starting point, but then we'll be going for industry-specific solutions also. So now somebody wants to eat halal meat, right? Or somebody wants to buy a kosher food. What about the certifications? You don't know whether they are traced or not. That's what we're going to plan in the next phase of our product. And then we'll also be, I'm already talking to a global certifying agency, which is working in 80 countries. So I might have access to 80 farmers of 80 countries in the next 6 months. We are also talking to one of the biggest retailers in the world for the food traceability. So that is where we are right now, if you talk about the traction. And then we are also obviously working on our own food stores across India and maybe Southeast Asia in next, maybe second quarter onwards, 2019. That is our plan. So this is a small team, so that is, I don't like to be called CEO, I'm much better with the farmer. I have Yogesh, he is working in the US, he has 20 years of experience in IT, his own company. That's Emraj, he is my friend also. We are all childhood friends. Emraj and me went to the school together, Emraj is since 4, we were together. We did engineering also together. So it's very not formed because of the intentions, it's a passionate team which is working together and has it long enough, not for the business but other things also. We also have Rajan sitting there, who is the marketing. This is our basic team. As I told you, we have world advisors like Giacomo and Giovanni and other 6 advisors who are working with us day and night, reach out to people, guide us all the way when we do things good for farmer. There's one thing that I always speak when I speak. People think that blockchain is fintech. Blockchain is equal to fintech. I really don't like it. There are so many real world problems which can be solved by blockchain. There are health issues, there are health related things. There somebody was talking about the registration of properties on blockchain. That's one good use case. This is the best use case. You earn Bitcoin because you're alive. You're alive because you're beautiful. I rest my case. Thank you. You can take questions. I will not charge Bitcoins for that. It's free. Yes.
Basically,
You don't need to ask him, but you can.
It's true, and since the questions, since this is a thing that we really care about in Italy, because Italy is all about food and fashion, and we're talking about food, and so the farmer will put the data into the platform. Who can check if the data input are true and trustable or not? And once they will be into the blockchain, they will be uncorruptible. So this is good. So this is a thing that will be useful for everyone. So we can eat some meat that we know where it comes from. But what about the very first step where the farmer puts the pork into the chain?
Basically, we're also using IoT with this. Now, when I talk about first feed of data, any data, that will be combined with some hard-coded barcodes. I'm talking about the French firm, the tagging part. That will make sure that the data is not tampered. Somebody that will scan.
So you will scan that.
And you see the flow of the process, because mostly scanning all the.
Okay. And before the animal has been scanned, you will link your blockchain to the government food administration.
I want to be independent entity out of the government. I don't believe in governments.
Yeah, I mean, it's
my childhood. I can access those. But thing is, then what is the use of me using, having a decentralized world as such? Why do we need Bitcoin then? Why don't we use?
Because they don't trust the banks.
I want independent system. Now there are organizations like GS1 who are having monopoly. What do you call food traceability? They can use GS1 for anything, clothing or anything. But what GS1 does is they give you a code, random generated code for a country specific, and they are charging millions from users. I'm going to charge maybe 5 paisa per kg or 5 paisa per ton. Fashion, as I told you, I'm connecting for farmers the way I want to see. I don't want to see the farmers doing the same thing that my forefathers did. I'm a farmer. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. And if I can use the knowledge that I have gained in my last 20 years, why not do that? That's the main thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Please ask questions. It's free. I will give you grapes if you ask me good questions. Direct from Nasik. Without pesticides. Promise. Just the other one. Sir, nothing direct right there.
सर मेरा बेसिकली क्वेश्चन है कि गवर्नमेंट ट्राई कर रही है कि फार्मर्स को एजुकेट ऐसे फार्मिंग उसके बाद भी फार्मर्स अपने एजुकेट नहीं हो पा रहे हैं और टेक्नोलॉजी से कनेक्ट नहीं हो पा रहे हैं। अगर आप अपना ये कॉन्सेप्ट है आप इसे लॉन्च करते हैं तो आप कैसे उन इंडियन फार्मर्स को जबकि आज गवर्नमेंट इतना फंड इन्वेस्ट करने के बाद टीवी पे कंटिन्यूअसली उनके डे नाइट उनके प्रोग्राम से चलते फिर भी वो फार्मर्स को प्रॉपर्ली कनेक्ट नहीं कर पा रही है। तो मोबाइल टेक्नोलॉजी जहाँ पर गाँव में आज भी कुछ ऐसे नेटवर्क्स नहीं है। नहीं एक्चुअली मैं भी कुछ ऐसे मैं भी ऐसे गाँव से हूँ जहाँ पे आज स्टिल अभी भी नेटवर्क्स नहीं है। हमें बेसिकली मैं महाराष्ट्र से आज भी हमें अगर फोन करना हो तो घर की छत पे जाके ऐसे फोन पकड़ के
नहीं यार करना पड़ता है। नासिक की बात करते मैं भी जा रहा हूँ देखो मुझे करना पड़ता है।
आप कैसे कनेक्ट करेंगे इंडियन फार्मर्स को?
I'll answer your question. So basically what he says is I think English also many can understand global language. What he's saying is how the farmers are going to understand these things when they are not able to understand things from the government. First thing is, government always shows you the wrong picture. That's what I have learned in my life. You believe like there are things which is government of Maharashtra doing, the scheme for Atma, they will be training the farmers to go for traditional farming, organic farming. They are doing groundwork. They have field officers. Even program becomes farmers don't teach. We have to be doing groundwork. There are some India also doing good work. Government of India has launched a scheme called Farmer Producer Organization. FPOs, anybody remember of it? FPO, सुना भी है? बाकी लोग खाना खाते चिंता ही नहीं करते क्या हो रहा है देश में. FPO is a government scheme where you can form a farmer producer organization, a group of farmers. You need only 7 for that, and you can have thousands. A farmer in a country like India, majorly 80% of the farmers are small farmers. What do you mean by a small farmer? Is someone who's having a field owned by his family or for his fathers, maybe less than 2 years. Let's say family got 2 but it comes out maybe 10 bigger as well. These farmers should work together, form FPOs, and then only they will succeed. So maybe they could successfully farmers. There are some good things. There is some TV benefit. So these are the skills that will help the farmers also understand more than rather than TV में दिखा दिया कि मैंने किसान वो चले फिर ऐसा काम करना. So farmers will understand that. And when I talk about the mobile app, they're already using it last 5 years. They implemented solutions for farmers. At least the farmers that I know in my part are very smart, smarter than you people when it comes to food or how to cheat you. So, how to put the best pesticides today you can get the best good looking grapes. They are more smarter than you guys are. आप जो खाते हो दिल्ली में वो 3 नंबर के grapes होते हैं. That is rated 3. Best grapes from Nasik never come to this country. They get out of India. All of them. Not even 95%. I only the 95%. 5% जो related to tax. अपने लोगों का अच्छा नहीं खिलाते और बाहर बेचते. Where people in Delhi can also give you more price for the same. Any more questions? I am available. I will say so you can ask questions also later on. This is what I am going to do, and I appreciate listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anand, for such an amazing project. Now I would like to call on Simon Steve, and he'll be introducing us with DGRAM.
Good afternoon. So while we're working for the slide set, first thing I want to do, picture. Usually want to be life size is enough. I'm having 2 extras that big. I'm not sure I trust him about that. But let's see what works, and we're going to talk a little bit today about DGRAM. The second thing I did want to say is thanks to BTC Wires for inviting us, and the management team for doing a stellar job, and try to see one. And in particular, for letting DGRAM make Delhi Wire Summit event our really example world premiere. It's the first real public notice that we've made of the business. It's not so much that we've been in stealth, it's just that we've been getting our ducks in a row before we're ready to go and talk to people. Guess what? We're the first. So, DGRAM, the first thing I want to tell you is that we're not selling coins right now, we're at the pre-sale, and we have an offer that is unlike any I've ever seen before. If I can say so myself. For an example, $1 million investment will give you a guaranteed 105% back in 12 months, risk-free. No matter what happens with the crypto business, it's insured through a regulated bank in Germany, third-party insurance. What we're doing with this is we're using this to raise the money to run the major sale. And the difference here is you get to watch what we've done over the course of a year as an investor. So I think I want you to keep that in mind as I talk to you about the rest of the business. Because if you like the business, you like what we're trying to do, and you see it as a zero risk investment, which is what we're offering you, you can line up with the basics. Why DGRAM? right? Well, we started taking a look at cryptocurrencies and we started taking a look at how we could fund our mining business, and we had a lot of problems with crypto. I've been working in this space for the past couple of years, advising a lot of businesses, and there's issues with crypto, right? One of the main ones is fear. I think I mentioned earlier. People fear of losing everything, but on the other hand, they see somebody $1,000 and turn it into 6 million or 60 million, and they're afraid of missing out on this. Along the way, though, they've got a fear the loss of control over your funds, over your investment, over any real understanding of how this market works. The people who've been in this space for 2 or 3 years don't have a clue. So don't feel bad about being a new investor, not really having a clue. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to check out, and it's very different than what you're used to. We're trying to give you a no-risk option to give yourself an opportunity to enter this market. One of the reasons for that is that the consumer uptake of crypto is going to be the future, as has been said by more than a couple of people today. So we're trying to fix crypto. We're also trying to embellish gold. When you buy traditional gold investments, you have the cost of buying the gold. You have the cost of securing and storing the gold. Or if you're hiding it under your bed, you're taking a risk of hiding it under your bed. It's not particularly effective. It loses its value, but it's not something that we expect to rise rapidly, and it's not particularly liquid. You can break a chunk of gold off, sell it, you can take it out of the vault, the provider, etc. What we want to do is we want to give you the ability to use your payment wallet, your phone, and the payment card to spend your coins. This part of what we'll be delivering to our payment platform through our private exchange. And the other thing is kind of a bonus when you buy gold through our coins, you're not going to pay all the so you'll be buying gold at spot price investment, and you don't pay the security as long as it is. And that's up to you. So this is the ideal hybrid crypto, right? What we're trying to do is give you something that reduces your risk. While we had this pre-offer where you had zero risk, come the coin time, every dollar that you put in, 75 cents goes that day via smart contract on the blockchain to our third-party provider, Baird & Co. in London. It's a firm that's been operating with a very strong international reputation since the 1960s. Everything is insured in an escrow. So DRAM itself doesn't hold your gold. It's in a safe place. The other 25% that you put in is the coin that's going to fund our mining operations, and that is the coin that is going to give the return value. Our target is to take your 75 cents of gold and double it, if not triple it, over a 4-year period, to take the growth coin and give it a growth pattern at a time, which gives you a hybrid of the two, somewhere between 500 and 600%, funded by the revenues of the mining that we are doing behind the scenes, revenue sharing with the coins directly. So we take 15% of our net revenue from mining, and we buy gold, and we put it into the permanent reserve. So however much goes in, whatever percentage that is of what was there, everybody who owns the gold is now worth that percentage. That's not a bad bet. You can't buy gold and expect the gold investment. This is what we're trying to do. So we'll take 75% of the funds, we'll put it in the ground, we'll take 25% of the mining in. We have a deal with the Angolan government in place to our partners. They have exclusive land holding. Shows you the flow of the money quite clearly. Money goes into our Estonian entity where the coin is running under a regulated cryptocurrency environment. 75% goes directly to the gold provider in the vault. 25% goes to fund the ancillary operation, which are mining. So we have this partnership with Vinci Global, who are working with the Angolan government. We're going in to do ethical and environmental mining. We're going in to build communities. We're going in to the country to work with a government that has thrown out pretty much every other nation in the world. Rather, they don't want to work, as I've been told, with the other countries because they don't feel that they've been treated sympathetically. They don't feel that they've been given the types of business opportunities that they could. We're going to go in and we're going to build communities, agriculture, restaurant, food processing. We'll exist alongside of mining and building the community. and to change the lives of our investors. D-share is where it gets interesting. This is where we build up the coin value. We move 15% of our net revenues into the gold mix, and 15% we buy back our own growth tokens. So we buy them back and we destroy them. So we reduce every month over the period of 18 months to 15 to 18 months, point capital by 5%, the 25% mark, at which point we start a program of exchanging gold coin for the gold coin. So one of the other elements of this digital security, the growth coin, is that it has a limited lifespan. We are targeting it to die after 4 years with a 15% rate. That is the model. It doesn't need to be around as used as a token, and we haven't seen many other possibilities in crypto where you have a clear adoption. So we're trying to appeal to traditional investors, crypto investors, and those people who are interested in getting in trouble by giving them something that's safe, something that's diverse, and something that's different. That's what I've seen. I've seen like a lot of folks, many of them. Another element that we have connected again directly to the blockchain is that anybody who holds either of our types of coins can join our investment club and apply some of those holdings directly to our expanding, accelerating, and opening new mining opportunities. So you can take your crypto investment and your digital security goals and targets growth for it. So that brings us back again to the investment options. We have the option today where we're offering through third-party insurance with a private bank in Germany, a 105% guarantee on $100. You can then flip that if we've done what we said we would do over the 12 months to 105%. And if we have accomplished that over the 12 months, then the target and the path to the 500 plus is pretty much assured. We will be mining, we will be pulling product out of the ground, and we will be earning. We're not a technology company. We're using the blockchain technology. We're working with third-party partners for our exchange and our wallets, have everything up to date, current, safe, and secure. And we're going to take the money and we're going to start pretty much instantly. So we don't have a 1 or 2 or 3 year build-up. We will be working into the facilities that our partners are already completing right now, and we'll be able to hit the ground running in about 9 months' time to start working. We'll also take options if somebody wanted to issue the 3.5 million limit on the coin. If you wanted to go directly into the tokens, we would give you an additional bonus on that because it would give us additional working capital. And there are other investment options for interested investors. If you'd like to have a chat about equity positions and the like, we are open. It's not our primary target, but we're flexible. Not only make some money with it, but to help us drive the business along. I guess that's pretty much where we ask for questions. The website is being redesigned to match this stuff, which has all been kind of last minute. It should be available by tomorrow. The white paper will be available later this week. There's a 2-page brochure out on it. If you have any information to take away from there, or I'm here for questions.
Okay. Hi. Is it the 5% I saw in the first slide? Was it monthly based or yearly based?
Yearly, 12 months.
Okay, with fiat currency. And if I convert into the gram coins, it would be like, sorry, would be like 400% in.
So at the 12-month mark,
Okay.
think about the 12 months. So 6 months brings us to the end of the sale, and then we've got 6 months of operating. So in that 6 months, we would have earned 30% of the coin cap of the growth coin, which drives its value from the original sale. With bonuses, you're paying somewhere between $2 and $2.50 on the exchange, $3 on day one. By 6 months, because of the burn program, without any upward speculation at all, you'll be at about $4.29. So your growth coin at 12 months will have doubled, and your gold investment, instead of it being the $7.50, will take the 5% profit and slap it into gold. So at that point, you'll be about in the 500 plus range for the growth coin and 800,000 for the gold coin.
Okay.
And that's on track to be plus 3 years after that 12 months, that's where we'll be looking at the 4 to 500 plus.
Okay. Thank you. Listen.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
म्यूट हो रखा है ना ना विश्वास को म्यूट कर रखा है ये ठीक है अच्छा वहाँ से उसने म्यूट कर रखा है 12% बैटरी इसमें देख लेना ओके ऑफ हो जाएगा
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time, and you can see me afterwards if you'd like to have a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. Now I would like to call on stage Ms. Sanjana, who will be giving us the introduction to Dunya Labs.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanjana. I head India partnerships with Dunya Labs. Dunya Labs is a blockchain knowledge company that builds tooling and infrastructure required to bring Web 3.0 to the masses. Our co-founders are Kathy Gore and Shikhar Vadraj, both graduates from Columbia University who had early exposure to this technology. They got into the space doing a lot of technical due diligence for various funds and doing theoretical research for this space. We share the same founders as Mitra Energy. It's Mr. Ravi Kailash, who's a tech visionary and who has had more than 25 years of experience. He's a serial entrepreneur who has built very successful companies in industries like telecom, software, and renewable energy. He's raised over $400 million of funding over his career and has built massively scaled businesses with over billions of dollars in assets.
इसकी बैटरी डाउन
So the name is truly international, with offices in New York, Bangalore, San Francisco, London, and Hyderabad, and makes for the perfect mix of global diverse profiles with extensive domain experience, but also leadership that's highly focused on high execution and scaling capabilities. So why India?
okay ठीक है
There are many reasons, and our team has the thesis that India could be the next leader in the blockchain revolution. Some of the reasons that contribute to this thesis is the fact that there's lack of legacy infrastructure, there's diminished trust among parties. India is one of the most highly corrupted countries in the world. There's high mobile penetration, over 400 million Indians have access to smartphones. There's financial exclusion, so over 70% of Indian population does not have access to a bank account. And there's also positives like fastest growing market, like it's a fact that it's the fast growing market for consumer technology and the abundance of tech talent. So our approach to large-scale mass blockchain adoption is three-pronged. We see ourselves primarily as a product company, but we essentially are focusing on research first, second product development, and third community building. Firstly, research. So we have a team of researchers who are essentially experts and thought leaders in fields like cryptography, network security, distributed systems, and number theory. And they do two things. Firstly, focus on long-term theoretical topics such as zero-knowledge proofs, stable coins, and multi-party computations. Secondly, they take a deep dive into all the protocols which testnets and mainnets are launching in 2019 and focus on various problems that the protocol is currently facing and ideate extensively. And once the solution has reached POC level, it is then pushed out to our developer team that then focuses on commercializing and productizing these solutions. So the model is a mini incubator and a hub and spoke model where where our research team is here for the long term, and it's one of the only few teams that's building international experience and international thought leadership in this space. The second arm of our business is product development. So, like I said, we see ourselves as a product company, and we really want to focus on bringing Chinese and US tech advancements back to India and focus on building indigenous products built by homegrown talent. So we're currently focusing on building a staking tool for dApp developers on a DPoS chain, and we're onboarding various dApp developers to help them scale their applications. Um, yeah, and Kathy will speak a little more about our product later. So the third arm of our business is community building. As we know, various blockchain projects are open source, and community is important for them to generate adoption, be it from users, from developers, from investors, and from crypto and blockchain enthusiasts. So what we focus on is bringing these international projects back to India, and this results in two things, right? Firstly, Indian developers and Indian students get access to international top projects that are in this space and learn that there's more to blockchain than just Ethereum or Hyperledger. Secondly, international projects like Definity, Polkadot can discover new developer communities and build on their communities. And it is important because Indian tech talent market is huge, yet only 0.2% of the Indian developer industry has the ability to operate in blockchain. So we're here to change that trend, and as we're setting up a chain of developer workshops where blockchain developers and software developers alike come together for over 3 weeks, and just within 3 weeks they learn the code base, they learn the developer environment, and they build their own use case by the end of 3 weeks, which is quite legendary. So this is Dunya. Kathy and I are here if you have any questions. You can find more information about us at dunyalabs.io. We're very active on Twitter at Dunya Labs, so feel free to tweet at us. And over to Kathy for
I'm not able to figure out the microphone. No? Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Sanjana, for that overview. Super nice of you. Just to talk a little bit more about our product and what we're working on. One thing that I think Dunya Labs is really blessed by is we're backed by a group of investors that have given us at least a mandate for flexibility. The space changes super rapidly. And we primarily on the product side work on two types of products. On one hand, it's more B2B, so we're focusing on developer tooling and things that make blockchain development more easy for mainstream developers. So one of the first things that we realized in the blockchain space is that we're moving from a proof of work paradigm to a proof of stake paradigm. A lot of the new consensus protocols and chains that are coming out utilize proof of stake for various reasons, less environmental harm, more scaling, et cetera, et cetera. But the infrastructure players for proof of stake chains are going to be vastly different from proof of work chains. Proof of work chains, mining intensive, and there's a feedback loop that we find is a bit negative because these miners are not incentivized to do anything except run their machines and essentially calculate what the rate of return is going to be and turn off their machines and contribute to the network in no other way. We see in some ways better feedback loops being created from the proof of stake side because the stakers are maybe investors, the stakers are users, the stakers are pools which are maintaining this as a service. So the infrastructure players in a proof of work world, in a proof of stake world are going to operate much differently than a proof of work world. And so we're focusing on two types of products. One is essentially helping developers scale their applications through staking as a service. So there are certain chains which utilize the staking for resources model. In order for applications to essentially access computational resources on particular blockchains, they need to stake a certain amount. But there's no good way of delivering these computational resources to end users. So this is a developer tool, and what we created essentially is a middle layer which downloads and constantly is dynamically analyzing all transactions on certain blockchains that have this paradigm and essentially creating ways to score users and dynamically stake on their behalf so that they can use applications. From a user perspective, what this means is that using dApps on these networks are suddenly free. There's no staking that they're required to do. There's no gas fee. As long as they have an account, they can always frictionlessly and freely use applications, which is going to drive the mass adoption narrative. The second thing is more looking at staking as a service more broadly across chains, right? And like I said, the people who are playing in the staking world are going to be very different than the infrastructure players in the proof of work world. And we can think about staking as a service companies more like asset managers, right? Because there's a ton of people who are going to be holding things across different proof of stake chains. Some of them are investors, some of them have lockup periods, and all these different chains have different complexities to them, right? Some of them have certain flashing conditions, some of them have certain lockup periods. So how are people who are holding a lot of different tokens actively going to validate and manage their portfolios on these chains? We think that essentially people and staking services companies will become asset managers that are constantly analyzing the economic dynamics on the major chains and being able to port different people's holdings across chains given, different network conditions. This is going to be just as big as mining, we think, and the infrastructure plays that are supporting this ecosystem and supporting the different players in it, we think is a major opportunity, given that the technology is not super mature yet for end applications. So this is something we're working on. We're very big on thinking about how blockchain is going to change when moving to a proof of stake paradigm, how we can use our tools and use our products to make building on proof of stake chains easier for developers, how we can make it free for users, and how we can even work on the asset management side so that people who are validators are able to essentially just monitor their portfolios, but we will be an intermediary service layer. So, we're pretty deep in the blockchain space. Some of this stuff is kind of nerdy, and in a lot of ways it's hard to explain because in the B2B side, there's no end user use case. That doesn't mean that that's all Dooney Labs is going to do, but we're taking a bet that in the next year and a half, these infrastructure plays are still very important. Bringing this technology to the developers, bringing this technology to a greater level from the infrastructure stage is necessary before we can see any scalable end user applications. So that's what we're working on, and we're super excited to answer any questions that people may have. Otherwise, that's us. We have to catch a flight soon, so ask me questions now or forever rest in peace. Yes, sir.
Well, post the dot-com era, during the dot-com era, we found that India actually missed that dot-com thing, and they actually became only a BPO to the world. How do we ensure as Indians that we do not become KPOs in the blockchain world? So will Dunia Labs be limited only to keeping the tech team, or do you actually get the entire technology and the entire product being built from India or from Bangalore?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's like when we even explain to our stakeholders, we're really looking at ourselves. We're primarily a product company, but we're working in a new market, so we have to be an ecosystem player, right? And that's why we do things like community building. That's why we do things like blockchain education for Indian developers. That's why we do things like outreach. Even Sanjana spends a lot of her time interacting with various IT departments and state governments, just for education and regulatory purposes. For an early stage startup, it's like you have a small team, you need focus, but if you're working in a new market and you have that first mover advantage, we think it's really important. And one of the things we don't want is a servicing thing, right? We never called ourselves a dev shop. We've never done any service deals. Everything that we build are in-house products. Right now, obviously, the customers for these in-house products are more international because there's just not enough activity here to have that base. But we think that once the infrastructure is built, once the pipe for the tool is built, and once we end up for the end application stage, that's when it's going to be about but we're primarily focused on we think that there's a lot of strong people working on the distributed database private blockchain side, but ultimately the recognition and the types of social behaviors that are going to be used are really on the public network side. But the technology in the next year and a half will probably still be the I've moved to India, so. Anything else? Okay, guys. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention, and hope you guys have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Kathy and Sanjana. Now I would like to call on stage Mr. Vishal Gupta to give us the introduction to Dino Labs.
Keep on shooting in and out of Bangalore. Lots of startups, consulting.
Hello. Hi, guys. Okay, my name is Vishal. I'm based out of New Delhi. We have a team in New Delhi. We're a funded startup. We've been operating for 3 years. I'm a tech guy. I started in 1991 when I was a small kid. And did my ERP. I've sold a few companies before. So now, let me just kind of explain what we're up to and what problem we're solving and where we think what our thoughts about it. So I think there is a huge global problem. Let me define that first. So there's a fintech revolution underway. There's a huge, massive fintech change which is happening across the world. So, but there is one big global problem. What's more than it's not animating them. Okay, we know this. All right. So okay. So there's an international binding law across all central banks that if you're signing up customers without face-to-face, it is classified as high risk. And if it's classified as high risk, you need to do anti-impersonation due checks. What that means is you need to check 600 or 700 plus criminal databases. For that, you need a valid combination of name, date of birth, and address. Without this valid combination, you cannot do those checks. And the problem is, these checks get defeated by simple Photoshop. Anybody who signs up on any Paytm or MobiKwik or Binance or Kraken, or we've done these tests actually, so you can't pass through those if you just rely on physical copies of documents. And that's why all banks require physical KYC. This is the whole hardcore problem of crypto. So this is kind of changed. Okay, so these are the possible KYC methods we can have. One is you can upload images that gets bypassed by Photoshop. You can do video checks where you can actually be holding the wrong Photoshop ID, which will pass through the system. You can do penny drops in a bank account. Let's say you do a bank verification. That will only check your name. It cannot check date of birth and address. If you don't check the date of birth, you cannot run those criminal checks. If you do credit card verification, it doesn't check the name and date of birth. And if you do postal, let's say you post something to the address, anybody could receive that package, and you can't do the name and date of birth check. If you do template or AI checks, they can be bypassed by Photoshop easily. So that's the hardcore problem of crypto. This is why RBI doesn't want crypto to be running here. They won't let it pass through the physical banks. So let me explain why these KYCs are so critical. The whole world, all the financial crime in the world, all the crime in the world, either it's financially motivated, I would say that's about 80%, and let's just remove rates from it. I think rest is all financial crime. And even the flesh trade eventually has a financial trade behind it. So the only way to discover and stop crime is through financial transactions. So the global law is basically that you have to hold the banks. The banks are basically liable unless they report a suspicious transaction to the intelligence unit. As soon as they report it, then they are not liable. They can do whatever they want. So that's the hardcore structure how the world is running right now in the background. And crypto kind of defeats that purpose because of not having data documents. So this is the hard reality of today on Earth. You can buy these documents. You can buy a passport with your photograph and an apartment bill. The price has actually come down to $20 since I made it. And you can use that to bypass. So there is no way to verify global ID documents. There is no way to verify name, date of birth, address. There is no way to check impersonation on that. These photos are a little off because of some protection issue. So, but however, these were similar looking driver's licenses. So we kind of tampered one of them, and we tried that. This was made by a 1-year guy who's never done hacking before, and he just has 1 year of Photoshop experience. And I called him over the phone. Can you please change some things and just kind of try it out on some of the big exchanges? So we tried this like a month went through, let me not quote the exchanges, it went through all the exchanges, except the ones who were doing just national, except Coinbase, I think pretty much it went through. So this is the hard reality. This is why crypto is, the banks don't want to deal with crypto. So the bigger, I think there's a bigger issue right here behind it. That we don't have, simply original documents don't exist online. There is no way. You know, that your degrees are not online, nothing is online. And that's a bigger issue. So let me just explain the magical process which we come with. We find about 25 patents, 20 plus patents. And this is a new magical process which we're proposing. So it's actually, it was supposed to be animated, so it's easy to understand then. So basically, a person logs into his website, any global website, let's say Aadhaar or US Social Security or UK driver's license, and they capture a PDF, they capture the web page. What it does, it checks the SSL behind it, and it does a combined hash of that web page and the SSL information behind it, and just puts the hash on the Bitcoin blockchain. What that does is, you get the tamper-proof original document from the real source, which you cannot fraud. There is no way to fraud it, and no way to Photoshop it. And if that document is real, let's say you get this original document coming from Aadhaar or UK driver's license or your Social Security, you can use that to verify the identities, and you can use it to check anything you want. So that it's kind of like a new paradigm shift for internet in general because of blockchain. And if you can do that twice, let's say you log into your bank account or your Aadhaar, that's a multi-factor authentication right there. So in this way, you can actually globally verify anybody across the 196 countries. So basically, the process is when you log into the website, the fact that you can log in is an anti-impersonation check. And the fact, once you capture it, it checks the SSL, that's an anti-fraud check. You do it twice, that's a strong authentication. So here's the secret formula. Funnily enough, it's MCQ. And there's no way to change it actually. If you see those words, they're all real, and there's no way you can change any one of them. So the online identity is only as hard as how many sources you're identifying it with. So it has to be multi-source authentication, that's the multi-factor. The data has to be certified through SSL or DNS. If it's not certified, the data is useless. It has to be coming from a credible website. If it's coming from a fake website, it's not worth it. So you need to have a whitelist of the websites. And then you need to have a cryptographic hash to kind of make sure you can trust this whole time. So that's what makes an online identity. I think this is the future. This is where everything's going. So this technology allows us to access all 196 countries, all online limited companies across the globe, all online bank accounts right now through this technology. We can directly test passports from the chip. We can take that data and match your face. 2.5 biometric verification we can do right now across the globe. We check all the sanctions and criminal checks and protocol exposed info checks. And we cover about, because this tech is directly linked from HTML, you don't need to do OCR. You don't need to you don't need to do physical OCR on it. So it doesn't have those errors. So now because it doesn't have those 4% errors which OCRs have, you have an accurate document which you can actually translate without any issue. So now you can actually translate from 180 languages globally into one common language, right, whatever the process is in your language of choice. Let's just leave this one. Okay. So let me just give a quick demo. I hope it works. It's not a PDF. No, let me do a PDF. The demo will work. Okay, so let's just move forward. Okay, now let's step back. There's a bigger game hiding inside blockchain in general. So internet was a network of devices built on IP addresses. It was designed to store and exchange data. This was back in 1970. And it took us 10 years as humanity to realize that, it needs to be human readable. So in 1983, we came up with this domain name system. And it took us another 10 years to realize that you need authenticity. And for e-commerce to work, or the banking to work, or anything to work on the internet, you need SSL. You need the website to be real, and that's what SSL was. And it was designed in 1996 after 20 years. And then search engines came along, which 20 years again. So we are missing those architectures blockchain is nothing but a network of public keys. Think of these public keys as non-repudiation based identity on blockchain, which are designed to store and exchange value. So we've been missing this architecture on internet for the last 40 years now, that we don't have a system which creates accountability on the web. So because we have been missing that architecture, it creates issues like fake news, issues like cyber security issues, cyber hacking, cyber crime, all kind of, all these child molesters running around, and there's nobody verifying people. So there's a lot of accountability issues. And once this blockchain kicks in, I think this is where we're headed. We're going to have a new layer of human readability on top. We're going to have a new layer of authenticity on top. We're going to have a new layer of searching across. So I think this is where it is headed. And I think one of the core things it's going to do, how it changes the game for the world, for humanity. This is a new statement I'm making. I don't think the world needs this. This is a contrary statement I have. I think crypto is a magic bullet to prevent money laundering. I think it's a solution to India's problems of corruption. Why? Because once you have crypto, you can track it across asset classes like real estate or money, if it's going through companies or currency or real estate or any other shape and form which has value, and you've tokenized it. You can track it across borders, like you can track if one of our politicians is changing right across in some other country, you can actually track those things. And then you can actually track it across time. For example, if there's a transaction happening, you can see where it's eventually going. So you can track them in the future. So it changes the game on crime tracking. And this is what we need for India to kind of come clean. I think we need to launch E2P eventually, where all the public spending should be on blockchain, where we track it. And this way, I think that's the only possible answer. This is my thought. So what we do, we have created a new API. What it does is, you can attach any wallet across any blockchain ecosystem across, it can be Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, whatever folks. And you can attach those wallets to your identity. And then our API will actually show if it's green or red, if it's verified or not, if it has, if it's clean or it's not clean. So this kind of gives a global decentralized wallet registry where anybody can check if the KYC is perfect without knowing that person. So this way you can actually track, if let's say you received $1 million from some wallet, you can actually check the source of funds of that wallet is clean and it's not coming from a crime. So this way you kind of make money laundering disappear completely. And I think that's where we eventually head. So our, this is kind of gone. So I think our target markets are across the globe. So, I think it will be used by government services, by customs, by visa issuance for licensing, even domain SSL issuance. It can be used in matrimonial services, recruitment, verification, online delivery of insurance. Insurance is checking and stuff. So pretty much that. So Drago is kind of disruptive identity solution where it kind of replaces, and it's better than physical KYC, which banks are using today. It's because even the physical KYC will be used by Photoshop to some degree. And we kind of need to directly integrate our institutional resources.
Video call कहाँ से आ रहा है?
It eliminates the fake stolen synthetic identity problem. All right, so that's pretty much it. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah, please go ahead. Ask all the hard questions.
No. Well, this is definitely a brilliant idea when it comes to my mind.
Video call. Why is the video call coming?
Coming up the stack.
Video call. Someone video call curious.
Work on that. Yes. So, don't you think there's a centralization of power in the Dero system itself? So how do you address that issue? Because we have been fighting with everyone over the centralization part. But you yourself are empowering yourself, and to that extent, you are giving someone green or red signal and providing the services either yes or no. I mean, there's more centralization.
So our objective in Dero is to actually create a truly permissionless identity network, just like internet, which the globe can rely on, and it should not be dependent on data. So all these technologies which I showed you are actually using a private key, and all the documents are decentralized with the private key.
Live चल रहा है वहाँ से Twitter.
And the users directly feeding those.
लाइव चल रहा है बीच में बकचोदी और ट्विटर वाले बोलेंगे
Now there are two things. When things are coming up from the government, definitely they carry some like a value. And when things are again coming from the user, consumer itself, then doesn't get that much value. So again, it would be very interesting to know what the mechanism you have been using to verify all this. And that comes in the picture. Yeah, definitely. So we've gone through those architectures. So there's a new architecture which is now emerging as a user managed access, UMA. So we're using that new emerging technology to kind of decentralize documents. So it's a little more scientific.
How do you actually ensure privacy of same? And either we are using some ZK star for whatever level, what are we thinking of?
So each document has its own passkey, like its own password, and it's encrypted by that. And you can then store the document in a public cloud or private cloud. Now that key is then encrypted by the public key of the user. So only the user has access to that document. And then further, we are writing parcels on these documents, custom parcels. It's a marketplace where you can create decentralized credentials, and the user can choose to share with whoever they want. So we kind of combine all the open standards of these dates, open standards of verifiable credentials. That's where we headed.
Perfect. All the best.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I just have one question. How do you integrate this with UID system of government?
So I think UID is a great, absolutely brilliant system what government has done for Aadhaar. I think there's a layer 2 which is now required on top. So what Aadhaar primarily does is it differentiates between two. So basically the core of Aadhaar is that two different people will not have one Aadhaar number, and one person will never have two Aadhaar numbers. So it just allots a unique number to each physical individual. It doesn't differentiate if it's an Indian or a foreigner. It's not a proof of citizenship. So now, once you have that as a core architecture, you can build all these systems on top and decentralize the rest. So I think the next layer has to come into blockchain.
Have you got the support from the government?
So I think we've got support from other governments except India right now. So we've been invited to lots of forums. Literally paid trips to talk about this solution.
So which is your biggest market right now?
I think our goal market is starting. So I think the place where the rubber meets the road and the product is being used is right now initially we are seeing traction in banks, large banks and large
Is it Indian markets or international markets?
See, I'll tell you the problem with India where we need to shift. So there are two types of law systems. One is you can have prescriptive laws where you exactly tell you what to do, or you can have principle-based laws. So most countries have principle-based laws. In India, for some reason, we've gone to this space where we have very precise prescriptive laws. Yahi karna hai. And that creates a lot of problem in adopting new technology also. And I think it's more to do with why we have cloud system and therefore we have shifted to prescriptive law. So I think we will shift that. We need to kind of align with the world and have actually easier laws to read and very, very principle-based approaches.
So would you think the government would align with the startup, the idea that you have?
I think the government needs, we have no solution to fight corruption.
Because they just started getting to biometric identification where they've done a compulsory thing to get it done before. They just went for banking and all after the frauds and all that happened.
And now the Supreme Court disabled it because it was possible to centrally track what everybody is doing, who they're dealing with. And if tomorrow, let's say we had a bad prime minister for some reason, he could actually take control of the democracy forever. So it was a very dangerous thing to do what Aadhaar was giving as authentication. I think it has to be decentralized.
Planning to start this in India or
so it has to be global. I think blockchain, the beauty of blockchain is we all humanity driven, and it's whatever we're doing is all humanity.
International market,
we don't differentiate between private and as such. so we need support wherever whatever support whenever whoever is willing to take it, you're willing to take it. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
क्या करूँ मैं इसमें कंटिन्यू भाई मैं तो पकड़ के नहीं बात सकता थैंक यू बैटरी 50%.
Now we have next is the panel discussion about blockchain regulation
चल
in
समझ
India. That is being moderated by Mr. Varun Sethi, along with our experts Mr. Anshul Neer, Mr. Rupinder Preet Singh, and Mr. Ankit Gupta. Thank you.
मेरे से चार्ज क्या है यार?
मेरे बैग में ऊपर पड़ा है। इसको गंदा है। No, let's see you right now. It's like Sabadas. No, actually, few points. No, it's getting Sabadas. I'm
अबे वो कहाँ गया यार?
दीपक भाई इधर शाम को निकलते हो
शाम निकलते हो
क्योंकि मेट्रो जाने में आधा घंटा लगेगा कहीं मिलेगी नहीं नहीं तुम्हें घर तक छोड़ के
अब इसको बंद कैसे करना है? ये सब एंड कॉल
आज प्रयास है